Indeed. All right. Welcome, everyone. It's 5 o'clock or 5:01, and we're about to get the work session underway. But first, I received a request yesterday from Councilor Brad Arrowood to participate remotely in the October 26th City Council meeting due to a temporary medical condition that prevents his physical attendance at the meeting. I will now entertain a motion to allow Councilor Arrowood's remote participation in this meeting pursuant to Staunton City Council Procedure Memorandum Number 3.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. Well, I'm not going to get the pleasure of having my friend here tonight. Pursuant to Staunton City Council Procedural Memorandum Number 3, I move to allow Councilor Arrowood to remotely participate in the October 26th, 2023 Staunton City Council meeting due to a temporary medical condition.
Thank you, Councilor Robertson. The motion has been made. Is there a second?
I second. Terry Holmes.
Terry Holmes. Mr. Kester, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Edwards.
Aye.
Mr. Holmes.
Aye.
Ms. Woods.
Aye.
Mr. Robertson.
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Now,
Giggles.
Councilor Arrowood, can you hear us?
I can.
And can everyone hear?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And would you please state where you are attending this meeting and the reason your inability to be here?
I'm attending it from Fillmore Street in Staunton, and I finally, long after it was popular, got COVID.
Well, I don't envy you that, but I hope your speedy recovery.
Thank you very much.
All right. And now I would like to entertain a motion for consideration of the work session and regular meeting agendas.
Mayor Claffey,
Councilor Woods.
I move to approve the work session and regular meeting agendas as presented.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Robertson. Mr. Kesker.
Ms. Edwards.
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood.
Aye.
Ms. Woods.
Aye.
Mr. Holmes.
Aye.
Mr. Robertson.
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, so the agendas are in place, which brings us to the first item of business, which is a discussion of request of Green Street redesignation. Ms. Beauregard.
Actually, I'll let Ms. Kaufman introduce this item and introduce our guest tonight.
All right.
Ms. Kaufman.
Hello. Today we have Melissa Patrick with us. She's a quartermaster at the Thomas Fields VFW Post 7814. And she's going to present to you a proposal she has requesting the redesignation of Green Street.
Thank you and welcome. Good to have you tonight.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I am Melissa Patrick. I'm a member of the Thomas Fields Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 7814. And I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of our post. You have before you a resolution from the post requesting that the city of Staunton proclaim that Green Street be designated to honor the selfless service of two local African-American war heroes who distinguished themselves during World War I and World War II. In 1787, when the Newtown addition was annexed into the small town of Staunton, all the streets were named to honor prominent Revolutionary War and Federalist political figures. The westernmost street was named for Nathaniel Greene. Nathaniel Greene was the commander of the Continental Army forces in the Southern campaigns and the commander under whom the Augusta militia served. The Augusta militia fought in important battles that contributed to American victory in the Revolution, such as Kings Mountain, Cowpens, Guilford Courthouse, and ultimately the Yorktown campaign. And it made sense at that time that the street was named in honor of their commander. Over time, the spelling of the street's name was changed, with the final E dropped from Nathaniel Greene's spelling, thereby obscuring who the namesake of the street was. We now have the opportunity to honor two of our own local war heroes who are largely unknown. Captain William Washington Green Sr. and Major William W. Green Jr. Captain William Green Sr. enlisted in the Army in 1898. He served in the segregated Buffalo Soldiers, seeing action in the Spanish-American War, the Philippine Insurrection, and the 1916 punitive expedition into Mexico in pursuit of Pancho Villa under the command of General Blackjack Pershing. He was among the very first African-American officers commissioned in World War I, and he served in the segregated 92nd Division. He received several awards for valor, most notably the Distinguished Service Cross, which is the second highest award for valor after the Medal of Honor. Note that no African Americans were recommended for the Medal of Honor in World War I, so he received the highest award for which he was realistically eligible. Among other exploits, he exposed himself to enemy machine gun fire and shell fire by going out to rescue 3 of his wounded men who had fallen in exposed positions. He administered first aid on the battlefield and carried them one at a time to a place of safety. Major William Washington Green Jr. grew up in Staunton, graduated from Booker T. Washington High School in 1939. He entered the Army Air Corps in World War II and graduated from Tuskegee Flying School in July of 1943. He flew with the famed 332nd Fighter Group and is credited with shooting down 3 German aircraft. While attacking a German ammunition depot in Yugoslavia, his plane was brought down by shrapnel and he was picked up by Tito's partisans. He fought behind enemy lines, assisting the partisans until he was rescued and returned to his unit. For his work with the partisans, he is the only American awarded the Yugoslav Order of the Partisan Star, 3rd class. He was also awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross and Air Medal with 6 oak leaf clusters. We request that the city of Staunton proclaim that Green Street not only honor the Revolutionary War hero Nathaniel Green, but also be designated to honor the selfless service and wartime heroism of Captain William Washington Green Sr., Buffalo soldier and World War I officer, decorated for heroism on the battlefield, and Major William W. Green Jr., Tuskegee Airman and Korean War veteran, who was decorated for his aerial exploits and heroism. Do you have any questions?
Oh, this is most impressive.
Absolutely.
I had no idea of all this. Yeah, so this is great. So what is our next step?
The next step would be to come up with a shared date that works for everyone. And the recommendation would be to do a proclamation on site.
Is council in favor of this?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would think so.
I'd just like to thank Ms. Patrick for all the work she does, researching the history of soldiers, African-American histories African-American soldiers whose history has been lost, the story that hasn't been told, and that you bring it forward for the community to know about and to honor. I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this would be great.
That reminds me, Clinton that gave a passionate speech last meeting. His dad, I took care of him at the medical center pharmacy for many years, was one of the last living members of the Tuskegee Airmen. One of the sweetest men I have ever known. Just wonderful man to talk to. So yeah, wonderful organization.
Well, great. Let's plan on doing this. And,
Yeah, look
thank
forward
you.
to it. Thank you.
Thank you for your efforts. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and that brings us to our next item of business, which is the annual library report, which we always look forward to hearing from Sarah. So,
You do. Sarah Scrip is our library director, is here to give her annual report.
welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Mayor Claffey, council members, thank you for your time this evening. I'm happy to have this opportunity to provide you with an update on the recent activities and achievements of the Staunton Public Library. My report tonight will primarily cover fiscal year 2023, which ran July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. But I will also touch on some things that are currently happening at the library as well. I'll start with our, there we go. I'll start with our main statistical point, which is circulation. That's the number that indicates the number of checkouts and in-house uses of library materials. This year, we circulated over 250,000 items. In a city of 25,000 people, that's roughly 10 circulations per person. I believe I've mentioned in the past that we cannot report to the state our full circulation that includes the automated renewals that a lot of people now love and take advantage of. But if we could factor that in, our official circulation would be almost 400,000 items, which comes out to almost 16 items per capita. The most recent comparative data across the state is from 2022. So that's a different fiscal year than what I'm reporting on. But it shows that our community checks out items at a higher rate per capita than almost all of our neighboring localities. The only one that has this beat is Highland County. All 2,200 people there checked out about 20,000 items. So we're coming for them.
They don't have Black Friars. Read more.
The 2022 average across Virginia was fewer than 5 circulations per capita. So I'm extremely proud to say that the people of Staunton outpace many with their library usage. We also processed over 9,100 new physical items for the collection this year. So that means each one is unpacked, cataloged, labeled, and covered before it hits the shelves, which means our tech services team of 5 is very busy to ensure that popular and high demand materials get on the shelf in a timely manner. To put this year's circulation into a broader picture, it's increased by 23% compared to last year. And if you look at this graph that it included, this is an example of the yearly trends that we can find using our new collection and circulation analyzation software. And it shows it on a running 12-month basis. So this isn't the fiscal year per se, but it's the blue line is this October to the last October. And then the orange line is the previous 12 months before that. As you can see, our busiest months are generally in the summer, which makes sense. Everybody's out leisure reading, kids are out of school, summer reading's happening. And I just like to show this because I think it's an interesting graph to show what our pattern of usage is every year. I will point out that the big dip in January of 2022 is when we had a lot of staff members out sick due to COVID, and we could not guarantee that we could open the facility safely. So we rolled back to curbside temporarily that month. So with our new collection analysis software, we're able to examine what collections are the most popular or successful. And this chart shows the breakdown of our physical collection and the total portion of each one's circulation. Interestingly, despite many questions we get about, you still have DVDs? The adult DVD collection is our single highest circulating area.
Really?
This is in part due to the fact that the loan period is only 1 week compared to 3 weeks for books. So naturally they turn over on a quicker basis. But I think it's also a testament to the fact that not everyone has streaming. They don't have access to broadband. They don't have devices that can access streaming services, or their household budget does not allow them a subscription. Another interesting point is that juveniles materials for babies, toddlers, and up through middle grades account for over 1/3 of our circulation as well. I'll also point out that our community very much loves fiction. Adult fiction and mysteries make up about 17% of our total circulation for physical materials. So speaking of fiction, I love talking about books. If you see me at the library, you've probably talked about what I'm reading, what you're reading. But these are the top 5 of last year. I always love to kind of promote, all of this kind of fun stuff versus just the numbers. And this one I thought was especially interesting because 4 of the 5 books are by authors from Virginia.
Oh my goodness.
Hold on.
When I'm out promoting the library, I really like to promote and talk about our digital collections because they're convenient, they're available 24/7. With resources like Libby and Overdrive and Hoopla, our digital collection of ebooks, audiobooks, movies, music, TV, comics has increased another 18% this year. That brings it to a 75% increase since 2019. And if you look at the graph, it shows the year by year increase. I thought it would kind of plateau as it did in fiscal year 2022, but you can see it jumped up again greatly this past year. With our new analysis software, we are also able to recognize a tipping point that has occurred. Our adult audiobook circulation has tipped firmly in favor of digital over physical. And the downloadable audiobooks check out at 6 times the rate of our books on CD. And I think this is the first time we've seen that happen with any portion of our collection. Roughly 133,000 visitors came through our doors this past fiscal year, and almost 8,000 of those were to use our public computers. Our volunteers contributed over 1,300 hours, and we couldn't do what we do without the support of the Friends of the Staunton Library, who raise funds to supplement the city budget and state aid that we receive. And our friends just recently held their annual book sale, so a lot of that 1,300 hours each year is made up of the book sale preparation and execution. Their book sale made over $5,000 earlier this month, and that all goes right back into the library to support staff, equipment, and events. At the end of June, we had almost 20,000 people signed up for library cards. Immediately following the end of the fiscal year, we do a purge of inactive expired patron accounts in agreement with state records retention schedules. So right now our numbers have dipped. It's about 17,000 and we're slowly rising again. Last year though, we saw almost a 23% increase in the number of new card registrations. I staff the reference desk, and every time I'm on the desk, I can tell you that I see people come through our doors, walk up to the first staff member they see and say, I'm new to town, I just moved here, I need to get my library card. So we're seeing a lot of new faces join the library and the city, I guess, too. This map shows the big picture of where our user base comes from. You can see that we still pull from areas of Augusta County that list Staunton Public Library as their home location, but the heart of our patronage is right here in the city. So just to summarize the trends, we have definitely rebounded over the past few years, and I expect that to further stabilize and probably level out for a more consistent year-to-year comparison. But if you take the data from our current fiscal year, the first quarter so far this year, and project it through the rest of the year, we're on track to exceed circulation by 8% again and computer use 10%. So everything I've talked about has pretty much been numbers so far, but I'd like to get to the heart of our services, which is community. And we build community and connections through our partnerships, outreach, and events. As you can see, our event attendance saw a 155% increase this past year. And that's all due to our staff's abilities to plan fun programs, build invaluable partnerships, and just make sure people connect with learning and cultural resources. I won't read everything on this screen, but I'll point out a few items of note. In terms of partnerships, I know we have a fabulous Parks and Rec department, but they are always a willing and enthusiastic partner for us when we want to have events or services at their locations. We were excited to host the first preview event for the Virginia Festival of the Book, which wanted to expand their reach beyond Charlottesville and Albemarle County this year. And we're about half a decade or more into our partnership with Redbeard Brewing to host the monthly book club there. It's a definite success, as you can see from the picture. It takes the library outside of our building and fosters great discussion among neighbors. For outreach, we've continued to collaborate with our partner libraries from Augusta County and Waynesboro. And when we do that, we're really able to work together to extend the reach of the Valley Libraries Consortium at community festivals and events. In terms of our own in-house events, we had a wonderful series of conservation programs in collaboration with groups like Valley Conservation Council and the Headwaters Soil and Water Conservation District. We helped celebrate the LGBTQ experience in the Valley by hosting an author panel with the Shenandoah Valley LGBTQ Center to feature authors that contributed to their recent book, Out in the Valley. And I can't continue without mentioning that the Friends of the Staunton Library successfully relaunched their Little Lunch Music program after a few years hiatus due to the pandemic. So this program has now been running for almost 30 years. It's a true community staple. In addition to those events, we were proud to host trainings that certified over 36 lay rescuers in case of opioid overdose emergencies. We hosted a series of voter registration events, and we were honored to host the What We Lost exhibit in partnership with Building Bridges for the Greater Good, which was on display for a month last year. As I previously mentioned, we also implemented a collection and circulation analysis software that lets us drill down into all of the statistics to ensure we're doing a good job of meeting patron needs and interests. Anecdotally, the vendor representative who helped us set this up was completely amazed by the data he saw coming in as it pulled all of the information from our software. He said that before we even started tracking and using the data to better target what we were doing, our statistics were better than the target goals that they help other libraries work towards. So big kudos to our team of librarians for really knowing and understanding our community. We're currently working to implement projects for which we received 2 grants last fiscal year. One was a $1,000 grant from the Community Foundation of the Central Blue Ridge toward installing a story walk at Montgomery Hall Park. Story walks are a series of weatherproof kiosks that hold pages from picture books. So both the Friends of the Library and Parks and Rec have helped to support this as we strive to integrate family literacy and learning as a new activity at the natural playground. The other $6,000 in grant funding is a project that is underway right now. Our technology services librarian submitted this proposal to the Public Library Association and was awarded the grant to conduct a digital literacy initiative targeted at seniors. Between one-on-one sessions, small group classes at the library, and classes at VPAS's Senior Cafe, we've had 28 seniors participate since September. This program is designed to award a free Chromebook laptop to those who complete the required classes and ensures that they leave the program with a device on which they can practice and build on the skills they attained. Those Chromebooks were completely purchased with the $6,000 grant. We've already given out 4 Chromebooks and have been receiving overwhelmingly positive feedback. One gentleman is taking the courses because he had previously relied on his wife to do all the computer-related tasks in their household. She now has a disability that prevents her from using the computer. So he's learning so he can make, up the difference. And he said, the classes are helping me to overcome my phobia with computers. Another attendee said, I am no longer afraid to use a computer. I thought they were easy to break. So we're seeing that this is a very empowering program and we're really excited to see where it goes. Something I really want to point out too is that our staff members accomplished this despite the library having a 47% staff turnover rate last year. Despite all of that instability and the cycle of advertising, recruiting, and training that we had to dedicate a lot of management time to, they were still able to pull all of this off. And I hope everyone can see what they are capable of, even in the most difficult of times. And imagine what we could do if we had the best possible conditions to work with in the future. The Talking Book Center is just as active as ever. They had over 340 patrons last year and checked out over 15,000 items. Their staff worked diligently to promote accessible public library services for local blind, low vision, and print disabled residents. In January, the Talking Book Center launched its exciting new initiative to distribute free Braille e-readers to local patrons. It's pictured in the lower left of this slide, by the way. It looks almost like a little keyboard. These e-readers allow a registered Talking Book Center user to instantly download and start reading thousands of Braille titles from the National Library Service's vast digital collection. They distribute about 17 of these new devices last fiscal year, and it brought a cost-prohibitive device to many blind readers for the first time. These can cost upwards of several $1,000s. So for that to be accessible to a whole new group of people is pretty incredible. So what's next? Hopefully a new roof. We're scheduled, I think, to get that next month, and we are very excited. Last year, we acquired free hearing loops from the Library of Virginia, and we're going to be installing those at our service desks in the coming weeks. Hearing loops work with a special hearing aid technology called the T-coil, and if the user enables it on their hearing aid device, it works in conjunction that a microphone that our staff members would speak into. And that microphone will then conduct the sound directly to the hearing aid and only amplify their voice rather than all of the ambient noise throughout the building. So even though we're a library and we're supposed to be quiet, we're not. And we want to make sure that customer service transactions are accessible to more people. The Story Walk is shipping soon, and our youth services librarian's been working with Parks and Rec to get everything prepared on that front. And the Friends of the Library are embarking on an exciting project. With the help of a generous bequest they received this year, we are in the very, very beginning stages to plan an overhaul of our backyard to create a more formal program space to take advantage of that hill and possibly create some tiered seating. I don't have firm details yet because we haven't even had a full committee meeting yet. So I don't have anything more firm to share about that at this time, but I hope we'll be able to present more information to the community soon. And finally, we're very excited that the city and council have agreed to fund a new facility study. I love this library and how our staff are able to serve the Staunton community, but it is becoming increasingly challenging to do so in a building that cannot keep pace with 21st century needs. We are looking forward to starting this process, hopefully next year, I believe. So I'll conclude once again by highlighting our incredible staff at the library. Their work, their passion, and their dedication enrich this community and bring neighbors together. I thank you for your support and your enthusiasm for library services, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Counselor Robertson.
Sarah, you said there was a 47% turnover. Are you back to being fully staffed?
We were always able to fill positions. It was just a constant cycle, and we are fully staffed. I have not had a resignation yet this fiscal year.
And then I reckon the second part of that question is, what were the reasons for a 47%, almost 50% turnover?
That's a very good question. We have 34 positions on staff. 2 are the Talking Book Center. But out of those 34 positions, only 9 of us are full-time. So we're primarily a part-time staff. And of course, when you think about benefits,
Right.
people will leave us if they have a full-time opportunity elsewhere. And last year, we were hearing that people were able to find jobs that were paying them $2, $3, $5, $7 more per hour than what the library was able to pay.
That makes sense. Absolutely.
You've also always had a history of promoting people to other libraries around and people advance through your system. So
Yeah, that's always been the case. We kind of, because we have 3 library systems so close together, we do kind of steal from each other. I came from Augusta County myself. I hired 2 people away from Augusta County recently. So it ebbs and flows both directions.
Right. When I saw the map of Staunton, Augusta County, you know, and of course you're shocked at the number of red marks that are spread out around the county. But I mean, is a Augusta County card is valid in the city of Staunton?
Yes, we have 1 system and 1 card, so people can set their home location between the Augusta County Library locations, Waynesboro, and ours. And so my theory is that because Staunton is also a commercial hub, a lot of people come from maybe the north part of Augusta County to run errands, and then we're the natural other stop to browse and see a bigger collection than maybe the smaller locations.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, thanks. Other questions from council?
I've got to renew my card because I guess I've been purged.
Think
It
mine's
happens
out
to
too right now.
everyone, I know. Please come see us.
Did you mention the new sign, Sarah?
I did not, I forgot about, see, we've done so much, I
know,
can't
you
remember
really
it all.
have done so much.
The Friends of the Library recently refurbished our exterior signage at the corner of High and Churchville. If you had seen it before, it was a little dismal. It was dirty. The letters were all peeling off, and it was in our old style. It didn't have our logo, our colors, or anything. So the Friends paid to completely refurbish it, and it's nice and shiny and new, and it looks wonderful.
So everyone should go by and see it and visit the library.
How many members are in the Friends of the Library?
Oh, I don't know that answer off the top of my head.
My husband is in charge of membership, and he is constantly busy. I would say hundreds.
I'd say it's
Hundreds.
probably around 200 maybe. I don't have up-to-date numbers off the top of my head. I can get back with you though.
No, that's just an excellent program. I was
Yeah.
aware of it. So I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to urge everyone that's not a member of being Friends of the Library to join the group. It's a
Thank
great
you.
group. Further questions?
Just thank you for all you do.
Thank you,
As
Sarah.
always, thank you, Sarah.
Always.
Thank you for your
It
time
was a great
tonight.
library.
I miss going to the library. Leanne.
Whatever. You could have kept it.
You can still go.
Yeah, you can still go.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, and that brings us to the next topic is the discussion of City of Stanton alternate energy plan proposal. Ms. Bowler.
Thank you. Councilmember Edwards actually requested that this item be placed on the agenda, so I'm going to turn it over to her to lead us through this discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Beauregard. Thank you for hearing me out on this. I had initially thought in my initial conversations with some of you that we should have a policy around alternative energy, that we should start moving away from, our current forms of electrification and look at perhaps using solar panels on our city facilities, on our schools, whenever we can, when we have new construction. So this was my initial thinking. And then after talking to folks, say on planning and just in the community who knew a lot more than I did, I started getting moved toward thinking of it in a more broad sense. And so what I've done and what you'll see up on the screens is that I started thinking in more broad terms about a sustainability plan. And I started thinking of it more as part of the comprehensive plan. And we do have parts of a sustainability plan within the current comp plan, but I'd like to see it a bit more targeted. And so I just want to share with you a bit of the vision that that had crystallized in my mind. And so the vision is for me a city that ensures and maintains a healthy, natural, and built environment for everyone who lives and visits here. And according to the EPA's definition, sustainability is based on a simple principle, and that is that everything that we need for our survival and well-being depends either directly or indirectly on our natural environment. To pursue sustainability is to create and maintain the conditions under which humans and nature can coexist in productive harmony to support present and future generations. And for me, it's really about future generations, what we can do for our kids and grandkids, our nieces and nephews. And I understand that the term environmental sustainability is a broad one, and it applies to all aspects of what makes up our city, which would be land management, water quality, home building, business development, human health, animal health, transportation infrastructure. It is enormous. And so it makes sense that it would fit into the comprehensive plan, which we'll revisit soon. So I made this if you wanted to follow along. Sustainability, environmental sustainability is in alignment with our city planning documents. We all decided that our vision is a culturally rich historic city with an exciting future of innovation and growth and resilience. I think innovation is where this fits in a lot, is looking at new technologies, new energy possibilities, being more efficient in our energy usage within the city. Hopefully we will be growing in our population. And so looking at how housing grows, can we look at more green building and construction, and of course, resilience when we come on hard times like our current drought. We have a pandemic and jobs are changing and people are at home. We have to be able to bounce back when we hit tough times. Our values, out of, I think it's 5 values, environmentally conscious was one of them, and that we want to understand what we do has short and long-term impacts on our community and our environment. And engagement, and we always want to involve the stakeholders, the community, and listen to them and have open communication with one another and with people in our community. So it is already who we are and who we've decided who we are as a council, as a city. Kylie. So it's also part of our comprehensive plan. The Stanton Comprehensive Plan is the appropriate avenue to focus on sustainable goals and visions for the city. We're scheduled to complete an update next year. The current plan was developed in 2018, so 5 years ago, approved in 2019. And it was already a significant overhaul of what had previously existed. And I think that next year's iteration should be more targeted toward sustainability really as an umbrella term, as I said, because currently it already addresses several aspects of what I'm talking about, and chapter updates can reflect that. Kylie. And so I looked at local comparisons that make sense. The town of Blacksburg and the city of Harrisonburg both have very comprehensive very comprehensive and focused parts of their plans. Blacksburg seems to fit best with what we could possibly do as far as aligning what they have set out as far as goals for where we could head. And it addresses, there are chapters in their plan that address economy, society, and the environment, and their emphasis on community engagement and regional collaboration. And so this approach really relates and aligns with Staunton's existing chapters with respect to, again, transportation, land use, and the economy, business development, everything. So it'd be easier for Staunton to see that their plan and ours and integrate that together. And I just included links to Blacksburg and also to Harrisonburg. Harrisonburg's wasn't necessarily part of their comprehensive plan, but they have an environmental action plan. And the environmental action plan came together through an advisory board. And so it was a long process of coming up with 3 steps of an environmental action plan. And so I link that because it's educational. It's got great examples of what can be done. But it just seemed better to look at the alignment between our comp plan and Blacksburg's comp plan. Go ahead, Colleen. So examples of objectives from Harrisonburg and Blacksburg, just very specifically, environmental sustainability. An example was continue to design and construct new public facilities and renovate existing public facilities to meet US Green Building Council. I don't know what those are, but I mean, I read them, but this is for consultants to go deeper into, but identify opportunities to increase carbon-free sources of electricity, for example, solar, wind, biomass, economic sustainability to make sure that we support a diverse mix of businesses to ensure, again, our economic resilience in time of downturns. Work with business stakeholders to develop and launch a local green business challenge program, prioritizing high-impact business practices to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, divert organic recyclable materials from the landfill, which I think is super important, is reducing what goes into the landfill, and if possible, reduce single-use plastics. I had been thinking about this for a long time when I was a teacher at Fort Defiance out in Augusta County. The several high schools had a challenge. And the challenge was to see which high school could reduce its electricity bill the most. So it was a challenge, it was a competition because notoriously the high schools use a lot of energy, a lot of electricity. Teachers use, computers, lights, and back then televisions. And so I don't know who won, but I'm going to say Fort won. And so it really just brought the attention to everybody that, hey, turn the lights out. Hey, remember to turn the TV off. Hey, let's log off our computers. And it just kind of brought it to the forefront of everybody's mind. And so I think businesses could perhaps do the same. All right, Kylie, is there something else there? So I just took a chapter from our current comp plan, goals and objectives. There's a section, in fact, it's the first section that we will be good environmental stewards. And I think we're working on all of the objectives that were listed there. The comp plan includes goals for new development, population growth, neighborhoods, housing, transportation, emergencies and safety, utilities, infrastructure, bike and ped. And I just think it might be my suggestion, I think that's the last one. My suggestion and my ask for council and to staff is that when we start looking at our overhaul and update of the comprehensive plan, is that we look at it through a sustainability lens in all aspects of city planning. How can we be more efficient energy-wise? Can we replace anything with alternative energies? Can we save? Can we build homes and encourage people to our developers to use green building practices? Can we help, can we identify programs that help residents? And maybe we do this, and I'm sorry, I don't know. Programs that help residents access solar panels. Can we help residents access electric bikes? Because that would reduce traffic, make parking easier downtown. I just think there are a lot of things that we could be doing that can make the population healthier, the city healthier, our economy healthier, and do that for our kids and grandkids. So I don't know what you guys think about that. If you have questions.
I think we should be going more towards solar anyway, especially with the new courthouse and the high school. I don't understand that those are two ideal places to put solar. You know, downtown is really hard because of the historic requirements, but that's changing too because the new solar panels that are coming out that just roll out like really thin, and you would never even notice them on the buildings. And that's the big thing with downtown, but I agree. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of flat roofs that are just baking in the sun for no reason right now where we could put solar. I think it's a great proposal to start looking at, and a lot of it wouldn't cost us anything, because there's a lot of grant money out there for things like the EPA as part of the Smart Cities program is over the next year is what was it, handing out dozens of grants ranging from 2 million to 500 million. And the deadline for the grants is April 1st next year for that one. And but that would be for methane emissions from landfills, and so that would be a regional thing since we share our landfill with that. But there's so many separate parts of proposals like this that that we could find money for, or that there are government funding for, that would actually help us, our community as well too.
Yeah, I reckon, I have no problem with the solar energy. I'm all for it if we can save money, the green project. The only thing that I would be, and this is more of the conservative view, how much, like for instance, I want to build a house, whatever. And if I want to go green, how is it, or how much is it going to add to the cost?
Yeah.
And
Well, I'm getting ready to put
Yeah.
solar panels on my house,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to cost about $30,000, but I get 30% back in federal tax
Yeah.
breaks. And the state doesn't do anything right now, but a lot of states do. And and it's going to basically do away with my electric bill.
yeah, and that is an exciting part. The only thing, and what I'm getting at is there's no way that we
yeah,
could
we
make
don't
it.
have the answers.
Yeah,
right now.
but we can't make it
Mhm.
mandatory. We can suggest, because there are some people that,
Well, we
they
could just
can't
start- we
afford
could
that
ju-
30,000.
Yeah, but we can just start doing it on our properties. That would be,
Absolutely.
a great start, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't have a problem with that, putting it on schools, putting it on the new courthouse. If it's
Best thing
going to
I
end
wanna
up
do is
saving us
make it
money.
mandatory, because then you turn everybody against you.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and I don't think it's just solar. I think, and I'm not a construction person or a developer, but I think there are guidelines and practices that help homes be more energy efficient. So it
Well,
isn't
see,
just.
that's part
yeah,
of what they're doing in my home
Right.
too, is they're gonna come in, and they did
Rating your
did,
HVAC
Yeah, I did
and all your.
they looked through the house
appliances.
and they figured places where they come in and put like a solar blanket inside the house that holds the heat in,
Mhm.
and it's pretty interesting.
I think I think that we should discuss it, and I think that looking at it through the comp plan is a great idea. I think, and Leslie knows that I've been asking, when are we going to be looking at the comp plan? And I believe July maybe is what Rodney is looking at, which my concern with that is it seems like that's a lot of information if we're going to be trying to actually do something with it next year. So,
That's
you
8
know,
months away.
I think
Yeah.
that we need to get on it as
Yeah.
quick as we can.
Right, and I don't know I don't know the timeline for doing the comp plan, what's involved in doing it. I just thought, right now is probably the time to bring it up if we want to be talking about any,
Well, I think,
and it's more just an orientation. I mean, it's not
think that.
just how you
yeah.
think about planning.
I mean, public input
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
surveys and things
That's
like that. I
part of
think
it.
all that needs to be involved in it,
Mhm.
but.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Terry's the only one that's been part of a comp plan process since, yeah,
Correct.
so it's
That's
gonna be
right.
new for all of us, and I don't think that we're involved in actually doing it. I think we would be using a consultant from either one of our agencies. I have no, I don't know, but I thought I'd like to bring up the question.
Ms. Beauregard, can you tell us what we're gonna do? Or, I mean, how
Yeah,
do
or
we
maybe
go
Rodney
about?
could talk about it.
th-
Rodney,
this
Mr.
I'm gonna
Rhodes,
let
comprehensive
Mr.
portion
Rhodes
start?
do that.
Mr. Rhodes, could you come into the
I
microphone
don't wanna
and let us know
misspeak.
what that process might look like?
Welcome, Mr. Rhodes.
Thank
Well,
you, sir.
thank you. This is what I get for showing up when
I
I don't have
know.
anything to present. I'm sorry, I'm not dressed for the
Look
occasion.
You're
wonderful.
fine.
In I think the last 5, 6 comp plan
Mhm.
revisions that the city has done, they have utilized the services of the Planning District Commission.
Mhm.
And I did request funding last year to do that this
Okay.
coming fiscal year. That was not approved in the budget. However, I was told we probably could find that money. It was
Mhm.
100,000 I had requested.
Mhm.
However, as I think someone mentioned, our last comp plan update was a complete rewrite.
Mhm.
I do not envision that this time. I don't
Mhm.
think it's going to take as long or as cost as much money. Whether or not we could do that in-house, that's also a possibility. If not in-house, maybe utilizing some parts, some chapters, utilize the PDC for that. But maybe not have them do the whole thing, oversee it like they did
Mhm.
the last 5, 6, 7 times.
Mm.
So
We
where
are
is the-
required, yes, sir.
Where does the planning district group come from? Are we involved in that?
Mhm.
Well, in the past, the Planning District Commission oversaw and did the writing, the drafting of the comprehensive plan. There was a steering committee of citizens that worked on it with staff and with the staff from the Planning District Commission. And then once we had drafts available, of course, we had input from the public information meetings. But then we would take it to the Planning Commission for additional input, and then there would be public hearings before the Planning Commission and then to City Council. And we are required to have those public hearings. Now, what we do before then, we have some flexibility on that. And I do have some ideas of how we could change that up and hopefully streamline that process with the next update.
Well, would council be interested in getting it rolling before July?
So that, I mean, does your timeline, I mean, do you have the bandwidth to start looking at planning that?
Well,
I realize you're a busy man.
Did you
Yeah.
start at the first of the year?
Yeah,
well,
when do you
the reason
normally
why I put it in there for July is the Code of Virginia says every 5 years you must review it. You don't actually even have to update it. I think
Okay.
Waynesboro went 20 years without updating it. They did the review every 5 years, but just I think a couple years ago they updated it for the first time in 20 years. So that's why I picked that July 19th of 2019 is when it was adopted. So we needed to start it at that point. Starting it earlier, that's an option. Of course, we're a small planning staff. We're working on Uniontown, West End,
Right.
and about 10 other projects.
Mhm.
Pretty busy.
Right.
All right.
Well, what could we do to make it happen? I mean, is there anything that we as a council can do to speed it up?
So Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission we're members, but we charge for their services.
Yes, and the update 5 years ago was we paid them $75,000, and that was over a period of 2 fiscal years.
Okay.
So it didn't hit the city all at once.
Right.
And I think I started working on that on day 1 here in the city almost 7 years ago. And it took 18 months or something. I don't expect that this time.
Is it something the planning commission could be looking at?
Well, I suggest when we update it the next time is that we not use this steering committee, that we use the planning commission that you have appointed, and that they would have a work session once a month where they would only work on reviewing draft sections of the comprehensive plan. And then they would, of course, they have their regular meeting,
Yeah.
to handle the public hearings and the regular business. So I think that would speed up the process. Working with the steering committee has its own issues.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
It's another set of.
Yeah, yeah.
Does the regional group have a set of guidelines or recommended practices that we could study and see where we're lacking?
Of course, they,
Back there.
yes, and I was a little
Becca's
timid
time.
in mentioning her name.
She has time on her
She's
hand.
right behind you.
But she was the principal drafter of the last comprehensive plan update for the city. And now she's on staff here. I know she also has other projects to work on, but
Okay. This
Well,
is just the
excellent.
first,
We didn't
first-
know that.
We didn't know. I
No, that's
mean,
excellent.
This
that's
is the first time
encouraging.
for 6 of the
Yeah.
7 of us. So it's just learning how this process goes.
yes, and I envision this to be more of a, instead of a 1.5 year process, I'm envisioning more of a 6-month process and then go to public hearings.
Right.
Great.
Because it's not, like I said, I don't think it will be a complete rewrite.
Yeah.
We completely changed the format with the last update. And I think we're pretty happy with that format. But of course, we got new census information, new information that, and new goals, objectives that I'm sure council would want to see implemented.
Stanton has changed over the
Correct.
past 5 years. I
Correct.
mean,
And we got all new people up here that are gonna need, some updating and some of Rebecca's expertise.
right. Well, maybe yeah,
And
but I think this is good.
And the reason too is we looking at still new people. I mean, if you're talking about July and it's 6 months, that's another election cycle.
That November,
It's that November.
2024.
Yeah, 2024.
That November.
Rodney, when was the last time planning commission did this? Because I know we were part of doing that revision.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that question.
How long ago, excuse me, how long ago did the planning commission do the revision? Do the update on this?
Well, it was adopted by city council July of 29. And some months before that, planning commission reviewed it. I do believe there was a gap there in between the time that it was drafted and then it went to public hearings.
Between 18 and 19.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, well,
Just
thanks.
as quick as we can.
Let's think about it and let's try to
What
get
do you
things
think?
rolling.
Yeah, a next step, just a really short next step that we could. I
Next
don't want to
step?
like leave it and then,
Next step, I'm sorry,
I mean, a next
Counselor.
step to starting to think about the review of the,
Comp plan.
we get a
It- it-
schedule.
I
to-
guess, could you
into-
come back to council or
At a
Ms.
work
Beauregard
session.
come back with that to
Yeah.
us before the end? I mean, well, let's see.
Yeah,
How about in January,
January.
February, when we get back into having
And give
2
us,
meetings a month?
give us in January, by the end of January, give us a time frame, what we're dealing with.
Okay, am I hearing that this is
a
a priority of council and that you would like to see this started before July?
Yes.
Just for us to get our feet wet of what we're looking at. So that
And I-
all of us can have our eyes and ears open
yeah.
and looking towards some of these great points that were brought out by,
Counselor
Yeah.
Edwards.
very,
just-
very good.
Yeah, that would include just a timeline, who would be doing it, if planning would be doing it, and then a timeline building up to July, not a major
How to teach you to show up at a meeting with
Sorry,
nothing to
Rodney.
present.
I mean,
Well,
not a
let's,
major thing, just some details leading up to July.
Okay,
Who, what, when, where, things.
be glad to.
That's it.
we
Yeah.
thank you.
That would be terrific.
We thank
Rodney.
you. And Counselor Edwards, we really thank you for
Oh,
all
thank
your
you.
work
All right.
on this. And
Thank
this
you.
is, get us thinking. That's exactly what we want to do. So,
Appreciate it.
all right, I'm running behind time now. So let
Oh,
me
shoot.
move on to the update on Stanton's pathway to affordable housing and housing for working families. Ms. Beauregard.
Sure, I'm gonna allow Rebecca Joyce, our housing planner, to do this quick presentation. It's gonna continue the discussion we had a few months ago about affordable housing.
We're glad to have you.
Turn it over to
I'm
her.
very afraid
Oh.
to be up here at this moment.
Don't be
I
afraid.
get asked to do something.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to present you with a brief update about the city's housing program what we have been working on for the past 2 months since my last update to you all. As a reminder, in the Staunton plan, affordable housing and housing for working families is included as an action under the economic development strategy. Just briefly, over the past 2 months, we've continued to develop partnerships and gather data. These steps are helping guide us in the development of the city's housing program. I'm very happy to announce we are working very closely with the Staunton Redevelopment and Housing Authority to explore ways we can work together to increase the number of available affordable housing units. We also work closely with the Community Action Partnership of Staunton, Augusta, Waynesboro, or CAPSOL. They graciously let me preview the survey that they're sending out next month as part of their community needs assessment and do some edits and inclusions of some additional questions for housing. So we're going to get some good data from that. We also have participated on the Regional Housing Studies leadership team, and we've also met with their consultants from city staff did to talk about local strategies and how we fit in the data for Staunton. I hope at some future meeting that we will be able to bring you all a presentation on the regional housing study, because there's a lot of good data that really tells us what's going on with our housing situation here. I also would like to say that I was very impressed with the number of people representing Staunton at the Regional Housing Summit. It was very well done, and very impressed that we had members of council, staff. We also had our housing providers there, and it was a really great experience to really understand what everyone was interested in. I found that, which I already knew, everyone was very passionate about the area of housing they worked in. They're also very passionate about the other areas of housing that other people work in, and have very strong opinions about how the other people should be doing their jobs too. So it was very enlightening. Based on the past 2 months, the interactions I've had with the partnering organizations and the housing providers, local, state, and federal government, and multiple in-person and virtual learning opportunities and research I've done, I found there's 2 focus areas that we can put our energy in to help address some of the housing needs. And the first one is really people-centered needs. So what do people need to be able to get into housing? And that ranges a wide spectrum from people that are unhoused needing more sheltering, all the way up to opportunities for home ownership for affordable housing and workhouse housing. One of the big problems in our area, and I think other areas too, is we have a very tight housing market with very few units compared to the demand. And so I consider it what I call very congested. If you think of Interstate 81 when there's an accident and nobody's going anywhere. So what happens is that people that may be unhoused can't even move into the shelter because there's no room, because the people in the shelter have been there for a long time because they can't move into transitional housing. The people in transitional housing aren't able to move into permanent housing. So anything we can do to help any of those areas a little bit is going to cause some movement in that. So those are the first areas. The second areas, and those of you all that attended the housing summit will be very aware of this too, is the issue with housing stock. All types of housing stock, we do not have enough of. And there's not a diversity of the types of housing or diversity in neighborhoods. So different people with different incomes are able to afford the housing. So those are the two kinds of areas that I've been focusing on and making connections with, and hope to be able to further us along in those housing issues. And I have not been advancing the slides. So I apologize. See, I am nervous. That word comp plan scared me. Okay. Last time I gave you all this list, kind of a timeline of where we were hoping to be in the next 9 months. I just wanted to kind of go over where we are now and then the next steps. We are working on a list to provide you all with some educational opportunities, some guest speakers, those kinds of things, very, very short, maybe at some work sessions, just to give you all some more education and background and ourselves on what the issues are, what resources we have here, and what things that we may be able to put in place as the city to help with this housing crisis. We've kind of put the housing survey a little bit on hold. One, because of Capsol having graciously let us get some housing information from their survey, but also if you look at the bottom where it says about exploring potential available federal and state grants, Virginia Housing has a wonderful program that provides funding for capacity building. And one of the things that you can do with that is doing some public engagement to get some input to see what kinds of housing people in your community want. And so I would like to pursue more about that to see if we could write that grant. I also thought it might be a good start for as we move towards a housing committee or commission, that could be a good project for them to work on to start for gathering that information we need. One of the things that I've been repeatedly hearing is you don't want to make a plan and then develop housing and then find out people don't need it. And that tends to be what communities do without doing that deep dive. So we want to make sure that we do that. Here are the next steps that you saw last time. We will be starting in January the block grant 5-year consolidated plan update, and we will be doing citizen input with that. So we will also be gathering input as that. We will try to look up for some more funding opportunities to leverage the work we're able to do with the block grant fund to help our community organizations move further with the resources they're able to provide. And then again, moving forward with the housing committee or a commission. So the last thing I wanted to mention to you all tonight is the assistant city manager and I were at a meeting earlier this week up in Harrisonburg about redevelopment and how to put housing in places, buildings that maybe had a commercial use or something different before. And there was a new term to me that I hadn't heard before. We know affordable housing. This was attainable housing. And that's really one of the areas we're trying to look at. The situation now, not just in our community, but across the country, is people cannot afford any kind of housing right now. Apartment rents, buying houses, all kinds of ways to be in a house. People's incomes are not matching what the requirements are to afford that housing. And so housing is becoming unattainable. So it's a complex issue, and it'll take government, the private sector, and community organizations to tackle this. In upcoming updates, it is my plan to present you all with some more actionable steps of where we're going to better this situation. So I'd like to thank you for letting me give you this update. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for this.
Yes.
This is valuable.
I'm curious, do you know what the difference of like amount of money it would take to keep somebody from becoming homeless? Is it usually like a deposit or is there any kind of dollar amount?
Mr. Holmes, that's a very good question. and it's not, well, there's two answers. One is it seems now because housing's a premium, a lot of times landlords can decide what their criteria are. So they may charge you a first month's rent, a last month's rent, special fees for pets, things like that. So that getting that over that threshold to be in the apartment can be what prevents people. The other issue is what is called housing is having stability in your life. And so sometimes it's not a financial issue in itself. It's the issue of I'm in my new apartment, my car breaks down, I don't have enough money to make a big repair bill, and I can't get to work now because of not having the car. So there's a lot of those wraparound services, and you all will probably hear me mention that a lot, to keep people stable, that also need to be in place. And I think very quickly, but that's where, as community members, we can always help the little things, making donations to community organizations, stocking the little food banks around town. You know, someone that needs a ride, give them a ride. Those little things make people more stable and able to stay in their housing. And the housing providers and people like me that are planning are trying to work on some of the bigger things to get people so they're able to stay in the houses and that developers want to develop housing here.
Terry,
Well said.
I hope that, because I attended Capsol and as the rep for the council, and I was blown away. I hope I've got the figure in my car. I gotta go and get it. But what the difference between 2022 and 2023, the figure that housing basically increased, that you said, just that difference. So I think I can find it.
Well, I think we should increase funding to these services that provide this help. You know, I think, you know, we're talking about they're much more efficient than probably we would be at putting the money out there. But if we gave them more money, maybe they could keep less people from being homeless or help people get out of the shelter. I've got employees that work for me that have been at the Mission, and they finally moved them to hotel rooms, and they're still in hotel rooms, and this has been a year. You know, and
Yeah.
I mean, and if they tear down the Econo Lodge, I don't know what a lot of these people are going to do, because that's where they put a lot of them. You know, and so it's just I think any money that I think that it would benefit us in the long run, because we wouldn't be paying all these other fees out.
Terry, something else I just saw, I was this past weekend with a friend of mine from Cincinnati who's in the housing thing, and he was explaining to me that people that qualified for a loan last April at those interest rates are now being cut out of the market. They were looking for a house at 250,000. Now, when they come back and they say, I found a house, they go, no, at your income level, due to the increased interest rate, you are now only qualified for a house at 210,000. And that is further.
Well, and then nobody's building houses. I mean, you know, it costs so much to build a home now, even a small home. I mean, I don't know what it is, a square foot to build a house now, but I think it's like astronomical.
It is.
You know, and even getting people to build apartment complexes and stuff. I mean, you know, it's a big investment.
It's like something this week on the news that it was like the average salary was 114,000 a year that's what you had to earn in order to be able to, you know.
Well, and you think about
qualify
it, these people are paying
home.
rent that are really house payments. You know, I mean,
True.
The only difference is a deposit on it. I mean, to have the down payment, you know, but they're paying $1,200, $1,400. I mean, you know, a lot of people that have the wherewithal to do things can get a better rate and have a lower house payment than these people are paying rent.
Right.
Well, you all don't need me. You know, you've got your finger on the pulse of the
We need you
issue.
to
It's
solve
a
the
problem.
problem.
No,
We
no,
need you to solve the problem.
do need you.
Well, thank you so
Appreciate-
much for your time.
Appreciate your report. Yes,
Sure.
keep us posted. Thank you again.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Okay, that brings us to a discussion of panhandling and potential signage in the city of Staunton. Ms. Bogart.
So this is a follow, and now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Kaufman. This is a follow-up to a discussion we had a a couple meetings ago, and we've done some research, and Ms. Kaufman's going to walk through that right now.
Thank you. As Leslie said, on September 14th, council discussed panhandling primarily along Richmond Avenue, and concerns were cited for the safety of those in the median as well as nearby motorists. So at that meeting, council asked staff to review the issue and then come back with some recommendations, which we'll talk about tonight. Working group was put together with several internal departments. So in addition to the city manager's office, we included community development, the police department, as well as public works. We also invited Valley Community Services Board, the Valley Mission, and Shenandoah Valley Social Services to the table to have that discussion. And so really there are three components to the resulting recommendation. The first and really the one that was talked about as the most important during that discussion was the resource to be referenced on the signage. There was some debate on whether it should be an automated pre-recorded line like some communities opt to do versus a live line in terms of the phone number. The group felt that having a live answered line was a better service to our community. And through the discussion determined that the most comprehensive resource that we have here locally is the homeless hotline, which is managed by the CSB. So that's already operating as a resource and referral line for our community. Lydia Campbell with the CSB participated in this group, and she was happy to have that number put on the sign if that's the direction that council would like to go. So the second part of the recommendation was the location. It seemed that the area of most concern at current is Richmond Avenue. So there have been two spots identified along Richmond Avenue for the signage, one along Statler and the other, no, I'm sorry. Frontier.
And the Walmart entrance.
And Walmart. Yeah, I'm sorry. And then the third is just the look of the signs, and you have 4 mock-ups that Public Works put together in your packet and in front of you to just kind of provide a little bit of feedback to staff on. So that's really all I have. Just looking for some feedback on those recommendations.
No, they're not the same. I like these two. They're so close.
They're close.
All right. I like the for everyone's safety
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah. Because I don't think, that's telling, actually, we can't tell somebody what to do. We can only suggest.
Exactly.
This
The
one
one says.
Please do
panhandling.
not donate.
I like
and
this
I
one
don't,
and that one.
yeah, I don't like.
For
that one.
everyone's
Panhandling
safety.
isn't
Either-
safe.
either one, whatever.
Panhandling isn't safe. That's
And
probably.
I want you to get smart. I don't like that one either, so.
Yeah, I don't like that one either.
So
So,
there's two
it's-
for everyone's safety.
yeah.
Either
they're just
one's
different.
fine. I mean, let's say don't give.
Either.
I think the
either one,
preference
but I
would be
like the
panhandling
Yeah.
isn't safe.
That's,
Right.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I like
this.
I'm with you.
Right here.
This
I
one?
agree.
And tell me
And not-
again,
Yeah.
It doesn't have the word don't in it.
Correct.
tell me
That's what I
again, who, when you dial that number, who's gonna pick that phone up?
The CSB,
Campbell.
our local CSB.
Okay.
Is it Lydia? Is that her? Where her
Or
office?
the-
Yeah,
I
so
called
her
the-
office.
I called the number today. Nobody actually picks it up. You leave a message for it, and it's not a number to donate. It's specifically for people that need help
Yeah.
to call. They didn't call back yet, but it's maybe we could clarify a little bit, because I mean, to me, just the need help on there makes it sound like need help. Do you need help donating to social organizations today? But if that's our best option for a specific number for them to call, it would be good to just have it on there. So, like, specifically making sure that it's clear that it's for actual help for people in need of housing or food or something on that, just so we specify what that's for.
So for, you put for assistance on there, need help, call. this
Yeah,
number.
Maybe
yeah, I
just
mean, it's kind of,
need help, and then call this number.
So not everyone who may be panhandling or in the median might be experiencing homelessness. And so while they do have resources for those experiencing homelessness, they also have the ability to provide referrals to other organizations if they're not able to help them, if homelessness is not
Yeah.
something that they're experiencing.
Yeah.
But
Just don't
I-
want it to get it, like, have so much stuff in
Yeah,
there that you
right.
can't read it. You know, I mean, it's short and sweet and, you know, if it's not homeless, I don't know how you can, keep it short. But I think this is the best
What
one,
did, I
definitely.
forgot, Mark was looking, but what did, like, the sign in Waynesboro? What,
They go to a phone number that is just a voicemail, and then it tries to direct you someplace else. So you would never get a real person with that. And I actually kind of stopped listening to it after a while, to be honest with you. So.
Well, I think that's kind of aggravating and it probably, you
Yeah.
know, if you're really hurting for money, you might not have a whole lot of phone time or anything to be on hold or.
And I think it was a dual purpose, like if I recall, if you want to either provide donations to an organization or if you need assistance as an individual, like if you're the one that's in need.
No, I mean, again, this one is not a live person. This is also leave a message. And I did leave a message and they haven't called back yet.
Well, I
So-
can definitely follow up on that and see what their typical response time is. So,
Yeah, I mean, it was in the afternoon, but so yeah, it just from the geeky English standpoint here in the first part of each of these signs, we're talking about donating to a social service organization, and then it sounds like, do you need help donating to a social service organization?
That's what I was getting ready to say
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
This is like,
that's why you have to
Don't really
clarify.
need
the
if you
need
want
help.
somebody to donate to a social service organization, you don't have anything for them to reference to donate to. But then the second part is need help, and who are we referring to? So this is kind of confusing.
and so that was discussed during our conversation as well. And the group felt that the more important resource was for those that were in need of assistance rather than the motorists looking for somewhere to donate, because there's a possibility that they may already have organizations in mind that they feel strongly about to donate. But if that's the preference, we can certainly add an additional, resource on here, a website or something.
So panhandling isn't safe. Donate to social service organizations instead. And then here for assistance. Well, no, you can't put for assistance because that would be the same thing.
I just thought maybe like need emergency help instead of emergency, so that, because that's broad enough that it's not,
Right.
are you homeless? Are you unhoused?
Yeah,
Just a
need
suggestion.
emergency help. Yeah.
So one part is for the
What's
for
the,
consumer, and the next part is for anybody that's on the medium that's actually panhandling. So that's two separate things, right?
what's this phone number actually called? Is it the community helpline? Is it the, what is it called? Maybe we could put the, sorry, go ahead. Maybe we could put the title of what this number is on there.
Yeah, like
That
Valley
might be
Community
possible.
Services Board, call. Need help, call.
Just put the name of the line that you're gonna be calling, so you know who you're calling.
Okay, it's the homeless hotline, which is run by the Valley Community Services
I
Board.
think homeless hotline would be
Homeless
great.
hotline.
There
Okay,
you go.
Mhm.
That work?
And on that number, they give you an email address, they give you a website, they give you all kinds of different ways to get in touch with them.
Good.
So under the phone number, put the name of the line.
Yes.
So
Need emergency help? Is that what the suggestion is instead of need help? No?
Yeah. Well,
Yes, I saw
I
no's
think
and yeses.
I think it just shows that it's for the person who is in need of help, not the
Right.
donor, not the
Right.
person
Right.
who's trying to donate something. Yeah.
need assistance.
Yeah, I put assist. I'd stay away from the word emergency.
Yeah,
That
people
sounds like
don't think
911.
911.
So need help, call blah, blah, this number.
Okay.
Sorry.
Right. If you qualify, just qualify it some way. Yeah.
And all you're doing is putting the line of who you're calling,
Underneath the phone number.
name of it.
And then instead of today, instead, donate to social service organizations instead.
Because it's,
Yes.
yes.
Or you could just donate to social service organizations.
All right,
Yeah.
We'll,
You don't,
Drop.
you can drop instead altogether. and
Yeah,
just-
Like
exactly.
instead
no,
of
donate to
today.
social service organizations,
Yes.
period.
Yeah.
All right,
So we
well
can
done.
send
Make it
this
even
out
shorter.
to you all to look at, and then we thought we'd put it just on the consent agenda just for a formal vote at the next meeting, and then that'll be
And
it.
this
So,
would just be two-sided. It'd be two-sided.
no,
one-sided.
he's shaking his head no.
That'd
Be facing traffic.
There'd be two signs.
Yeah,
On each side of the
just
median,
whatever
facing
needs
traffic.
to face traffic. Yeah.
All
Target
right.
audience for
Oh,
these
yeah.
are cars in the turn lanes that are stopped, so one direction.
This
at a
wouldn't
time.
affect, like charity organizations like the fire department or rescue squad when they're trying to raise money.
Well, that's not safe either.
I know it's not, but I'm just saying that it happens. I mean, you don't,
I think I think those groups work directly with the police department. I could be wrong about that. To,
shaking his head. yes.
oh, Jim's shaking his, yeah, chief, okay. They have to, okay, sorry, he said they have to get a permit, so they have to be permitted to do that type of work.
To do the,
So,
I'm sorry, say
To
it
do the
again.
donations, like when you see the people doing like the rescue squad and the other groups doing the donations.
Exactly,
They
right.
go to the police department to get a permit to do that, so we know where we know they're there and for how
Okay.
long they'll be there, so.
All right.
Okay, does that sound
So
reasonable?
like I said, and Stanton, Augusta and the fire department really haven't done that type of
I
thing
don't
that they used
Think
to
they
do
do
for
that
years,
anymore.
anymore.
Mhm.
for many years.
Yeah,
So
the fill the
that's-
boot, yeah, I don't think they do that anymore. All
All right,
Does that
Thank you for
sound
your
good?
work on this. you
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Thank y'all.
right,
And Jeff,
Thank you.
thank
good
you for
job.
doing that.
Let's move on to the closed meeting. Would someone please read the motion?
Yeah. Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Robertson.
I move to enter a closed meeting for number one, discussion of the performance of a council-appointed employee, the city manager pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1. And number two, discussion of the acquisition of real property located within the city limits of Staunton, Virginia on Thorn Rose Avenue, where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A3.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Counselor Edwards. Mr. Kesticker.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Miss Edwards,
Aye.
Miss Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're in closed session. We will return at 6:59.
Thank you, Kylie.
6:59. I think I missed 6:59. Mr. Kesticker, are we live?
Yes, sir.
Can we entertain a motion to come out of closed session, please?
Mayor Claffey,
Counselor Woods.
I move that council reconvene in an open meeting and certify to the best of each member's knowledge that only lawfully exempted public business matters were discussed and that only public business matters as identified in the closed meeting motion were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting.
Thank you. I have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Counselor Robertson has second. Mr. Kesticker, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Miss Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Miss Edwards,
Aye.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you for that little bit of housekeeping. And now I call the regular meeting to order. I have a special guest tonight
So excited.
to help me with my duties of the Pledge of Allegiance. My grandson is 8 today.
Oh.
Happy birthday.
Lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Happy birthday.
I hope you got you something.
Everyone
else.
else is like.
Now go get yourself some cake.
Yeah.
He's already,
Better than something else.
he's already had his dinner.
I know.
Aw.
Oh, he's such a cutie.
That's my boy.
Very sweet.
All right, tonight's invocation moment of silence is brought to us by Counselor Robertson.
it- I actually have probably changed my mind after knowing everything that's gone on in the last several weeks outside of our 50 states across the ocean in the Middle East. And then last night we heard about the terrible shootings up in Maine, where dozens were injured. And initially, I think the death toll was 22. I heard possibly that may have been dropped to 18. But if you would, I'd just like to ask to bow our heads, and I would do a short prayer just for everything that's going on in the world as in right now. Our dear Heavenly Father, I simply ask that you give your divine help to this world that we live in right now. We ask that you please be with the Israeli people and the Palestinian people that want peace. Terror is never a good thing to try to achieve anything. So, dear Lord, we simply ask that you bring peace to this area, protect the people, be with all of the people in this area in the Middle East, and be with our soldiers and our Navy that are over there trying to prevent a further widespread war in this area. And now, dear Lord, we simply ask that you also be with the citizens that came under another terror attack, homegrown, unfortunately, in our state of Maine of the United States. And please be with those families that have unfortunately suffered unbelievable loss and loss of their husbands, wives, daughters, sons. Just unbelievable terror. And we ask that you be with those that are injured and help the medical personnel do their best to try to save these people that are suffering. So, dear Lord, again, we just simply ask your grace and covenants, and that you would be with all of those that are suffering hardships and medical issues at this time. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mark. First order of business tonight is a proclamation, and since it's pertaining to the educational system, I have asked Counselor Edwards to present this proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm honored to present this proclamation this evening. Is there a Mr. or Officer Doug Britt here? There is. Wonderful. Thank you. Officer Britt, the city of Staunton, Virginia, is giving this proclamation for Attendance Awareness Month. Whereas the nation is experiencing a school absenteeism crisis brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic and other challenges that have eroded positive conditions for learning at school. And whereas physical, emotional health, a sense of belonging and support, and engagement with adults and peers with social emotional competency are all vital in motivating students and families to show up and engage. And whereas, rather than responding with punitive action, reducing chronic absenteeism requires a comprehensive approach, starting with prevention and early intervention, and includes the development of routines and trusting relationships that create a sense of belonging. And whereas taking daily attendance in a caring, consistent manner is essential to identifying when students begin to miss school too much, for engaging students and family as early as possible with needed support and resources. And whereas improving attendance and engagement takes schools, families, elected leaders, and other community partners working together to rebuild trusting relationships and communication and address barriers to being in school. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by Staunton City Council that the city stands with Staunton City Schools and the nation in recognizing Attendance Awareness Month and commits to focusing on reducing absenteeism by addressing the factors that cause students to miss school, ensuring all children an equitable opportunity to thrive academically, emotionally, and socially by working together to build an engaging school environment that motivates attendance and sends the message that learning can and must continue. Thank you. Officer, can we take a photograph with you and for this proclamation? Thank you so much.
Not to be trifled with.
Oh. That'd be fun. They could all gather under the screen. Thank you.
All right. Let's see, that brings us to the mayor's report, and I just wanted to thank the nominating committee for fully staffing the EDA. This morning I attended an EDA meeting and we had two new members. Don Bosman, Betty Jordan joined us this morning for their first official EDA meeting. So that there's a lot going on at the EDA right now, and we're glad to be back up to full strength. And that's all I have for mayor's report. I'll turn it over to additional items by members of council. Who's ready?
I mean, yeah, I had the honor to attend as the council rep, the Capsol meeting, the other, actually the first part of this week. And a lot of things that went on. We had a couple of representatives, but they talked about called the River City Bread Basket, but it's actually at 505 North Winchester Avenue in Waynesboro. They do their things both in English and Spanish. And they talked about, and one of the things they talked about is says it's not a scarcity problem that we're facing right now with food. It is a distribution problem. So that's a unique thing. There's also called the LifeWorks project. And it actually, you can go on the website. It's called www.thelifeworksproject.org. And it's just practical support for everyday people. And then it's also the same thing in Spanish. The other thing that we talked about is that Capsol sponsored a medical clinic. And it was basically, at that time, it was just dental and vision at this time, because they found out, or they felt that that was the two biggest needs right now, is the dental and vision. And there were 172 participating from the Saw area, Stanton, Augusta, Waynesboro area, which is a really, really good turnout. And they were really pleased with that. The other thing, which we did a little work project, just sitting around with all the members, and then she gave us a little time to fill it out. I was so far off anyway. But talking about the increase in what it cost to typically, it's called the MIT project, but what it costs to live in this area. And that goes with what you talked about. Increase, this is from the 2018, 2019 time period to now. Increase in food, 800, this is per month. 800, excuse me, I apologize. This is for a year. And I think that even that's wrong right now, is because it's increased so much. $858 a year for food. Transportation increased to $75. Healthcare, $1,555. Civic, anything to do with civic, $2,088. For an annual increase for a family per year, $5,119. And you divide that by 12, that's an increase of $426 every month for a family. And there are some families that, like I told you, in my profession, they struggle to pay 50 cents for a prescription. So, you know, times are tough right now. And I know Terry talked about what would it take for us, or what would it take, you know, to try to help people stay in their home if we were to give more to Capsol. Well, it's going to take a chunk. But anyway, so it was an eye-opening exercise, just to see. And I won't go into all of it, but and all that money right there, that doesn't include phone, internet, none of those things that basically, especially if you have kids trying to get on the internet to learn, because that's how education occurs this day and time. If you don't have internet or a way to get internet, you're up a creek. So thank goodness our library does that.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, thank you. I had such a great time. It was a great pleasure for me to volunteer last Friday night at Bessie Weller. I had not visited Bessie Weller in a very long time, and they had a fall festival, and it was incredibly well attended. Hundreds of kids there with their parents. Everything was free unless you wanted a hot dog. And so it was a circus theme. Kids were dressed up in circus costumes, Halloween costumes, and just a great time to meet some of the teachers, parents, kids, and really enjoyed it. And the kids had a great time. I also was lucky enough to go to the Dawborn Awards. Dawborn Awards recognizes exemplary educators in the Stanton, Augusta, Waynesboro area. And for Staunton, the teachers that, the folks that won were Mr. Nesmith, the band teacher at Shelburne, and the Stanton High School media specialist, Lori Peltonon, won for Stanton also. And what I think is so wonderful is that it doesn't have to be a teacher or an administrator. They also recognize the cafeteria manager at one of the Augusta County schools. She had been managing the cafeteria for almost 30 years and was so involved in kids' lives and the life of the school in general that she was chosen. And one of the coaches who was also so involved in developing kids and getting relationships with them. And it wasn't just an award that got handed to them. People win $10,000 every time, every Dauber Award winner gets $10,000. So it's quite an honor. And I want to congratulate those educators for that. So thank you.
It's wonderful. And they've been doing that for many, many years.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
Thanks to Buzz Dauber. Yeah. Anyone else? Members of council? Quiet tonight. All
Oh.
right.
I mean, finally, I just want to say, I think, who was there? I was at the NAACP Unity Dinner. Was it and Counselor Woods was there. And Ms. Beauregard and Amanda was there as well. And it was a very, very well-attended event. Lots of our community was there and great entertainment. The students from Staunton High School were the folks who walked you to your table. What are they?
The ambassadors.
Ambassadors, thank you. And we had music from Staunton High School and Shelburne Middle School. So it was pretty cool.
Oh,
We-
so, yeah, I just want to elaborate on that a little bit. In the absence of Mayor Claffey, he was asked to come and bring greetings at the NAACP Freedom from Banquet, and I had the honor of doing it in his place. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. It was my pleasure. Yes, the event was very well attended, and it was a beautiful event, especially with all the children, all the kids there from the city school. So yeah, kudos to that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you. All right, and that brings us to our regular meeting, and we'll start out with the consent agenda. Per council memorandum number 14 is policy of city council to have routine, non-controversial items placed in a consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda includes the approval of minutes for the work session and regular meeting of October 12th and a consideration of proclamations to be presented in council chambers at the November 9th meeting. So I will now entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Mayor Claffey,
Councilor Woods.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. A motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Terry Holmes is second. Mr. Kesker.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Ms. Edwards,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And I just wanted to tell everyone the best wishes to Councilman Arrowood, who's attending remotely
Oh,
tonight
yeah.
because he's sick. He came into the earlier meeting and he will be attending remotely tonight, but we wish him a speedy recovery.
Thank you very much. Yes, I get to float above all of you on the screens here.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, that brings, next item of the business is a public hearing and consideration of application for exemption from real estate property tax by Valley Area Community Support Incorporated, DBA Valley Supportive Housing.
Great, thank you, Mayor Claffey. I'm going to do an introduction of this item and I'm going to take us back in time a little bit. This is the third time we've talked about this. So I want to just give everybody kind of the background again. So I'll take a little time to do that. Mr. Haney, our city assessor, is here to answer questions. Also representatives from Valley Supportive Housing are here as well. So I'll start with my background and then Mr. Haney can fill in any blanks if I miss anything. But in April of this year, Mr. Lou Siegel, Executive Director of Valley Supportive Housing, or VSH, sent a letter to the City Assessor's Office requesting a real estate tax exemption for 6 properties purchased by Valley St. Clair Properties LLC, which is owned by VSH. He also granted the same exemption for a portion of 111 Pump Street that had been previously occupied by a commercial business and treated as taxable. They're remodeling the bottom portion of Pump Street property in order to provide additional below market rate housing units. But going back a little bit more in time, in 2006, Valley Area Community Support, Inc., which is a 501c3, was granted which is VSH, was granted real property tax exempt status by the Staunton City Assessor's Office, but without proper authorization from Virginia State Code or a local ordinance. They currently have 6 properties being treated as exempt for real property taxes. And they've been treated as tax. And then the VSH required the above six properties earlier this year, and they have been treated as taxable up to this point because there was no official authority granted in 2006, which is unfortunate. We looked high and low for any records of this, could not find anything. We could not find any justification for a local ordinance, and also the city assessor has determined that per state code, they also do not, they would not qualify as tax exempt. So we first talked about this at the August 24th, 2023 work session, which we talked about the tax exempt request. And at the conclusion of that meeting, City Council directed staff to return with some possible solutions between the city and Valley Supportive Housing concerning the tax exemption request, and to just bring back more information. That's attached to the package that's before you tonight. That's attachment 1. And then on the September 28th, we continued that discussion at the work session, and those materials are also attached. In between that time, on September 21st, Rebecca Joyce and I, Rebecca, our housing planner, met with Mr. Siegel and members of his board to discuss some ideas and possible solutions in lieu of tax exemption as directed by council. That list is also in the packet with the September 28th agenda materials. So I'd like to share a little bit more information and some further clarification, because I think there was some clarification that was needed from the last meeting. Just as a reminder, VSH has not been designated under Virginia Code Section 58.1, 3607 as exempt. The assessor has determined they do not qualify per Virginia Code Section 58.1, 3606 under any of the 8 classifications of properties. And they must affirmatively fit in one of those classes, and the code sections are to be strictly construed. And VSH, as we already determined, was also not granted an exemption under Virginia Code Section 58.1, 3651, which is the local ordinance, which is the action that's before council tonight. Mr. Haney also reached out to other jurisdictions and found that other localities do not exempt properties owned by organizations with similar mission statements from real estate taxes. So we could not find any examples of other like organizations that provide similar housing that were tax exempt. Virginia Supportive Housing was brought up as an example. He checked the tax exempt status of a sample of properties, about half a dozen or so, owned by Virginia Supportive Housing, and what he found is that they have a very similar mission statement as Valley Supportive Housing, and in no case could Mr. Haney find a jurisdiction which had treated similar properties as tax exempt. And we saw no reason why any of the properties should be tax exempt if the ones that we sampled are taxable. So Virginia Supportive Housing properties are indeed taxable. Also during the work session on the 28th, City Council was presented by Valley Supportive Housing a list of properties they stated were tax exempt, and that's attachment 3 in the packet. I had Mr. Haney check this list, and each of those, so you'll see before you that each of those properties, any of the properties that are tax exempt on that list are designated via a state code section, either by classification or designation, and several on that list are actually taxable. None of the tax exemptions on this particular list, or any that we could find, were designated by city council action. And in fact, the only tax exemption by designation request in recent history to have been before council was denied in 2013. So the only decision before you tonight is to either grant tax exemption or not. And once you hold the public hearing, the city assessor and I, as city manager, based on the assessor's research and information provided by Valley Supportive Housing, recommend that city council deny the application for the following reasons. And these are also listed in the ordinance before you. 1, the properties in question and their use do not qualify under Code of Virginia 58.1, 3606 exemption by classification. 2, the Constitution of Virginia and the Code of Virginia do not favor exemption of real estate taxes outside of Virginia Code exemptions by classification. And 3, a survey of jurisdictions around the state indicates that similar properties with similar uses are treated as taxable. So depending on the decision this evening, if this were denied as being recommended, the next step would then be to have a discussion about the payment of back taxes, which by law or legally, Mr. Haney is required to go back 3 years It was determined at the last meeting that was a little over $85,000 if you're looking at all the back taxes for those 3 years, plus getting them caught up to the current year. And then the suggestion going forward from there was to have them go through the budget cycle like other nonprofit agencies, other outside agencies. And as I mentioned before, Ms. Joyce and I met with them, walked through some possible other ideas, many of which admittedly they had on their list and they had pursued already. But there could be others out there that we could help identify for them. If the decision tonight is to take the recommendation that the city assessor and myself are putting before you this evening. So I can answer questions. Mr. Haney's here to ask her questions. I know we have members of Valley Supportive Housing here as well. So I'll open the floor to questions.
Counselors have any questions of Mr. Haney or Ms. Beauregard?
Could you, yes, Mr. Haney, thank you. I don't know if this is Mr. Haney or Mr. Blair, but can you explain what this statement means? The Virginia Constitution does not favor exemptions. What does this mean? It doesn't favor exemptions outside of ...
Sure. I'm happy to.
Flip a coin, somebody.
It simply means that tax policy typically wants uniformity. And so it disfavors tax exemptions, which means number one, I think you could interpret that to mean, number one, that there aren't very many tax exemptions in the Code of Virginia. But number two, even if a tax exemption is granted, it's to be strictly construed, meaning as narrow as possible. Is that
Well put. That's what I would have said. I mean, yeah. It's normally we talk a lot about, I've been doing this a long time, the strict construction of these ordinances in general for taxation. So the code, even though it will exempt some organizations by classification, it also exempts, it requires the proper ownership and also the proper use of those properties. So those are the things that we really look at closely when someone calls and asks for some kind of exemption. So.
Could you give us an example of something that would classify?
Yeah, sure. A big one comes with churches. So a church is exempt as long as there is religious activity going on there. So churches that own excess property don't get to exempt all of that property. It's got to be used for a religious purpose. I could give you examples, but I mean, that's generally it. Churches often have, the code also exempts parsonages. But if the church is renting that parsonage, then I tax that portion of the parcel. Schools are the same thing. There has to be educational purpose going on there. So if the school is using a building for something else as a rental, some of the schools own residential properties around the city. So those have to be used for educational purposes. So strict construction of codes.
Something like a nonprofit, like what's the women's shelter?
New Directions, but they don't own their property.
And they don't
own their property.
And they don't charge rent. They just, it's
a shelter, but they rent the shelter. Yeah. But for example, I'm looking at the list, Mr. Haney, that is in our packet. It's attachment 3. So I'm looking at, for example, Casa for Children. I assume that's the property. Their office is on Frederick, I believe. Is that it? Because it is taxable.
Yes.
And so that is a nonprofit, Casa for Children. I can't say enough about how great it is. I volunteered for several years for that organization. It's taxable and they own the property. Okay, just because it's
That's
it's an odd list. I mean, there's, for example, the Smith Center it's by state classification. It's exempt. So looking at the examples that were given by Ms. Cianciolo and then confirmed by you, Mr. Haney, is, the Moose Lodge, for example, it's an eclectic list.
Yep.
So just, trying to get our mind around what classifications things are. So just making a statement.
Say, okay.
That wasn't a question. No, it just wasn't a question.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's an
Out
eclectic list. Yeah. It's,
Yeah. And just looking at this list, wondering, did they apply to this? So it's a state classification. Did they apply to the state for this exemption? These examples like the Shakespeare Theater, or did the city grant that tax exemption?
Well, I mean,
Do you-
it's exempt through the state code. So
Through
we
the
would
state code.
analyze the state code. If they weren't exempt,
Mhm.
then we would, you could come to me and say,
Mhm.
I should be exempt and
Right.
this is why. Excuse me. And so there's not a process
Right.
for them
Okay.
to go through and except unless we missed it. And then of course we'd have to look at it.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Haney, on the list of ones that are already exempt, do you know offhand how many of those were, since 03, we've had the authority to make them exempt. Do you know how many on that list that city council locally did that, or how many were?
I don't believe any of those, Mr. Arrowood,
Mhm.
were classified by the city or designated. That's the
Okay.
point we're trying
That
to
was my
make, is that there
question.
haven't been
Yeah.
any city council designations done. We went back to 2013, which is the last time a request was made, and we didn't even go back further and couldn't even find a request. Is that correct, Mr. Haney?
That's correct. Back
Yeah.
into the 90s.
We went back into the 90s, I think.
Yeah.
So have not been even any request between 2013 up to that point and then now. So all these were done by state designation or classification.
Right, again,
Okay,
the narrow sort of list of properties that are exempt, it sort of shows you those 8 classes.
I have a question for Mr. Blair. Mr. Blair, do you know if the code has been amended or changed since, for instance, the city went back to that point in 2003, you said, or even further?
1990s.
1990s?
Well, 13 was the last time an actual request was
If the
made.
Code of Virginia has been amended to reflect anything different in that period of time?
Well, there was, excuse me for this arcane aspect of it, but there was a constitutional amendment. I believe it's 2002, is that right, Charlie, or 3, where the Virginia adopted a new constitution in 1971. And up until it was 02 or 03, the state legislature made all these decisions. And then in 02 or 03, an amendment was passed in which it came back to the locality to make those decisions as to the designation of tax exemption.
Okay, thank you.
2003.
2003.
Yeah, that's in the memo from September 28th. Yeah.
Yeah, the prior exemptions in the state code are longer than your arm. So
Right.
I happen to have an alphabetized electronic copy of those so I can find them if need be.
Further questions from council?
Would we have time to? Can we ask folks from Valley Supportive Housing a question?
That's, Mr. Siegel will be coming up
You
next.
will, okay, thank you.
This is time for council.
Okay,
I mean,
I just don't want to end.
Charlie, what was, let me reiterate, or what was the total amount to bring them back up to level, the 3 years plus what was owed this year?
85.
Just over
$85,000.
$85,000.
I think it's in your packet.
Yeah.
No,
I don't
it's
remember
in
that.
the September.
Any other questions? Anything else you want to add, Mr. Haney?
I think we've covered it several times, just
Yeah.
you know, if council chooses to exempt them through this process or to aid them through this process, it's, you know, just, we stand as a small jurisdiction, 11,200 parcels. So, you know, this tax burden gets spread around to the other taxpayers if this happens. Nobody else is doing this. All the other jurisdictions are going through the budget process. So that's all, I think. Unless you have questions.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, before I turn it over to the public hearing, I wanted to give Mr. Siegel a chance to speak. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, with all the legal issues notwithstanding, can you hear me out here? When this nonprofit was formed, it was a spinoff from the Valley Community Services Board. And the mission statement says that we're only going to accept as tenants those with some diagnosed mental health issue. The consequence of that decision is that, using current money terms, all the tenants, and there are 68 of them in 12 properties, have a monthly income of around $875 to $90 to $900. That's their monthly income. Now, if these 68 tenants were to try to find a place to live in Staunton, there wouldn't be a place. We'd have an even larger tent city. The typical rent for a efficiency or a one-bedroom apartment plus utilities in Staunton is around $1,000. So $850 to $900 just not going to cut it. So the board of directors of Valley Supportive Housing made a conscious decision to charge rents at the $525 level using current monies, including all utilities, and also including a dish TV package. So, and they chose that number because it fits in with an $850 to $900 monthly income. You're still left with about $250, $300 for food. Most of these folks have SNAP benefits, have food stamp benefits of around $35 a month. So the decision was made based on income. And so you take that income and translate it into what our budget is. Our budget's around $375,000. The rents cover 75% of that, just 75%. The other 25% comes from folks like Capsaw or the Community Foundation for Central Blue Ridge, United Way, and an annual fund drive for individuals, which nets us about $27,000 a year. So we've tried, we work with all the folks that the city manager and Ms. Joyce brought up already. So our situation is that we're never charged real estate taxes. If we put now that in their packet, it says that these real estate taxes would be about $33,500 a year. So our budget includes what you would expect in a bare bones budget. It's cost of the money for the housing, bank loans, principal and interest, it's insurance, it's utilities, it's maintenance. It's that's it. And so rents cover at this point 75% of that. The other 25%, as I've already described. So if we were going to add $33,500, we'd have to ask it. We're not sure what we would do at this point. We have a choice of increasing rents by about $45 a month. What's that? That's about $480, $500 a year. Somewhat comparative to the number that Mr. Robinson, I think, just threw out. There's another $500. Or we have to go look for grants. We don't have some magic bullet here that helps pay for what we do. We think that what we do is an absolute necessity to the community. Where would these 68 folks be if not in one of our apartments? If you've got an income of $900 a month, where are you going to find a place to live? Except for a group like us who decided that we're going to set the rents that seem to work. And we have to fill in the blanks there. We have to fill in the other 25%. So this would add another $33,500 a year. And it's not like if they said, well, you're going to have to pay it. Well, the day after tonight, it's not going to be able to come up with that kind of money. It's just not going to work. So that's the point. The business plan originally was to take care of folks who have a really minimal income and have a mental health issue. And that's what we do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question?
Yes, go ahead.
It's okay. So, Mr. Siegel, I don't think anybody on this dais disagrees with anything that you've said. We understand the dire need for your service, honestly, and your mission is important, and I appreciate everything that you and your board do. I have a couple of questions that have been nagging at me for the couple months that we've been going over this, because, honestly, this would be, if we were to give a tax exempt status, this would be the first one that apparently our local government would be giving to a nonprofit. And so it is important for us to really think through not only this decision, but future decisions. So it's not personal. It's not, so please don't take any questions as not as, supporting you at all. But, you've said a few times that if we had to pay this, we would fold. If we had to do this, we would have to do this. And so it got me thinking when I heard you say that for the first time. Well, they have this portfolio of some pretty expensive properties. So you have, a property that's assessed at over $1 million that many people live in. And then you've acquired the houses on St. Clair. And so essentially, someday they're not all paid for, I assume. You have a note on these, I'm assuming.
That's correct.
Okay, so you have a note on them, but I'm assuming also one day, like every organization, this organization will fold. One day it will happen because all of them do. What would happen? Who owned, in whose name would these be? And what would happen if and when Valley Supportive Housing were to close its doors? What would happen to these properties? Do you have a dissolution plan, for example?
We've not had to face such a question in the past. And so if we were to try to continue operating as we are now.
When they cease to exist.
You have to come up.
Come to
Yeah,
the
please, would
microphone,
you talk
please.
to us? Yeah.
Excellent.
No.
I'm Dave Rismeyer. I'm the
Hi, Dave.
chairman of the board for Valley Supportive Housing. I've been a director of nonprofit corporations and I've been on several boards. By law, a nonprofit corporation is required to give its assets to other nonprofit corporations. No individual will benefit financially if we end up terminating the organization. And I just want to add to what Lou was saying, that despite what I've heard from the city manager and assessor, city de facto exempted us from taxes from the day we started our organization. We built all of our budgets based upon the understanding that we wouldn't pay property taxes. And as Lou's been saying to you, we're not going to be able to find the money. if you start charging us taxes. And I'll just add one other thing. Other organizations may be paying real estate taxes, but I had an extensive conversation with the director of Virginia Supportive Housing, who was referenced in the manager's report. And she started off saying, well, we do, but it's complicated. And they have 4 or 5 different localities in which they have housing. So they have an extensive staff that negotiates and deals with all of the, you know, the civic organizations, the councils and county supervisors. And they get special treatment by these people. They may be paying taxes, but they may be paying reduced taxes, or they're getting a grant to offset the taxes. We don't have the staff power to do that, not currently. So if you vote, if you vote to start taxing us and to take charges for back taxes, first of all, I'm not sure what the year is that you do that, but I don't believe we got a tax bill this year.
Well,
You discovered that we were not paying taxes during this current annual year. So we didn't budget to pay property taxes. We budgeted a 0 profit budget, which is what we've done every year. So when Lou says we may fold, we may have to sell some of the properties and stay alive, but we would have to increase our efforts in all of the things that are necessary to offset the taxes. But the city essentially set the precedent. I mean, maybe it was by mistake. Maybe the assessor in 2006 or whenever it was granted us tax exemption without getting the city council to bless it. But it happened for almost 20 years. So before all these people were employed and before all of you were on the council, it was happening. And nobody knew about this until we informed you that we own these properties and we're now looking to make them nonprofit.
Could I interrupt for just a second? I don't think it was that we weren't charging taxes. I think it was because you were part of the Community Services Board.
Not since
Is that not
2006.
correct?
Not since 2005 or 6. when we became
And that's when
separate.
you stopped paying taxes?
We
When you,
were created by the CSB
Yeah.
as a separate nonprofit.
And the
Okay.
CSB being a state organization
Right.
wasn't taxed.
right, so you stopped paying taxes when you separated from the CSB?
No,
As,
no, they weren't paying taxes. They are a state organization.
I understand, yeah, I
They
understand.
were never paying taxes. And when we separated, it just probably was assumed.
And they gave us.
That's the
Just-
crux
just
of it right there,
a
yeah.
historical note. They gave us one property.
Mhm,
It was a group home in Waynesboro.
mhm.
And that was our seed funding. We sold it because
Mhm.
our model is single occupancy apartments.
Right,
I don't know, I wasn't on the board then. I was working
Right.
elsewhere, et cetera.
right.
So I don't know who got that money. I would assume another nonprofit got it if they were following the law. But we took the money because we profited from it and we invested it in the housing that we currently own. They also essentially gave us the F.E.N. Johnson property on the top of Johnson Street. And then we expanded that with grant funding. And a lot of the money.
No, they didn't give that to us. It was a $1.2 million loan, a $1.4 million loan. So they didn't give it to us. We were still
Okay,
paying on that
so-
loan.
And those loans are contingent on us continuing to do what we do. And if we stop doing it, the loan is called. So we would really be in terrible shape if this were to happen for a lot of reasons.
Michelle, to your
Mhm.
point, about not being able to continue.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to continue as we're doing right now.
Mhm.
You know, we could, there is a exceptionally tight 1-bedroom market in
Yes,
Staunton. In
yes,
Staunton,
yeah.
okay? We could just change our way of operating, not be a nonprofit anymore, and we could probably rent those out in a month.
Mhm,
But all of our tenants have a commercial lease, have a typical commercial lease.
mhm.
So we don't want to do that. We'd like to continue what we're doing. And we would try to do whatever is necessary to come up with that other $33,500. This $88,500 that's being thrown around,
We've already decided, I think all 7 of us decided for the past 2 or 3 meetings that we are not inclined to
do
ask you
that.
to pay that.
We're not asking.
We've
for
said that several times.
That's very
several
much
times.
appreciated right there.
We understand the dilemma. And we're appreciative of the problem. And we said that since day one.
I know you'd be setting a precedent, but in essence, there's a de facto precedent.
The last one that you turned down was a much different organization. The groups that they were paying, they're charging $2,400 a month for rent, plus other kinds of fees. You're paying the president of that organization $240,000 a year. You got quite a different operation right here. $240,000 a year is 2/3 or 3/4 of our budget. You know, we don't do that. We have a $360,000-$70,000 budget, which is tied up with necessities, essentially.
Any further questions?
No, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. We're going to open it up to a public hearing in a minute. All right. I'm now about to open the public hearing. It is a time the council sets aside to hear from citizens.
May I give you one thing? This is a set of petitions that from a variety of different kinds of churches that speak in our favor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We ask you to come to the podium, state your name, your address, keep your remarks at less than 5 minutes. When you reach the 5-minute mark, I'll let you know that your time limit has expired. For any Zoom participants, please call. Mr. Kester will tell you when I have someone on the line. If anyone would like to speak on the public hearing concerning this issue of the Housing Authority, please come to the podium at this time. Welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Susan Richardson. I'm the Executive Director of Valley Mission here in Staunton at 1513 West Beverly Street. I'm just coming tonight to support Valley Supportive Housing in their request for the exemption. I certainly understand the uniformity of law and how much of a difficult situation this is. I just wanted to speak a little bit about my clients. We've had, probably 6 folks move into Valley Supportive Housing apartments within the last 6 months. As Lou referenced, the housing market is incredibly tight, which means the rental market is incredibly tight. I have individuals living at Valley Mission that have been there since COVID started. I have one lady in particular, she's been there for 3 years. Our average length of stay right now is anywhere from a year to 18 months because our folks don't have anywhere to move to that they can afford. Valley Supportive Housing is one of the few places that they can actually afford. What we appreciate about the agency is the fact that our clients have to have a case manager in order to be eligible for the services. Many of our people do have mental health issues, substance abuse issues. And so we really benefit from our partnership with Valley Supportive Housing. And my concern is not so much the budget process, but it's the people that will be affected. And I just very much appreciate you hearing me out this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Come ahead.
Constance Birch, Mary Gray Lane, Staunton. Does Valley Mission pay property taxes? Good. Does the Moose Lodge pay property taxes?
I don't think we all know that answer.
We don't know.
We don't know. We're not assessors.
I mean,
yeah, but somebody here.
Mr. Haney, this is the time for you to express your opinions, but we are not the answer people.
Okay. A few years ago, and I don't remember just when it happened, I think they called it deinstitutionalized. Western State greatly reduced their population. I don't know why. They built a smaller building, and that's why we have that, whatever the complex is that the city bought. I went to the housing summit that Councilwoman Woods and Councilman Arrowood went to. Is very interesting. There was one question I didn't get answered, and I wondered if the homeless population has increased since the deinstitutionalization. I've been a volunteer in a number of organizations, and I think Valley Mission is a wonderful institution, and it aims to get people on their feet, working and self-supporting. But in my volunteer work, and probably most of you have come to understand, that there's some people who have been so damaged by their early life or by things that happened before they were born, that they're not really able to function in our very complicated modern world. Sometimes they were absorbed years ago by a family and taken care of in a job that required very little skill. But today you have to balance your checkbook. You have to do a lot of complicated things. I'm just wondering if and I don't expect you to answer this, but I'd just like to consider, and I'm glad to hear that they have case managers. There's some people who need more being taken care of. And I personally am not convinced that everyone living individually and independently is the best way to go. And I wondered if the homeless population and the need for all these SOAs was exaggerated because of deinstitutionalization. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kester,
Sir, we have someone on Zoom.
go ahead, caller. Ma'am,
Yeah.
I guess,
Can you hear me? This is Brenda Mead, 342 Sherwood Avenue. I appreciate very much how difficult this decision is for members of council. But I just wanted to share a couple of things. First of all, in answer to the previous speaker's question, the Valley Mission, at least according to the FOIA response that I got from Mr. Haney, Valley Mission does not pay property taxes. CASA for Children does not pay property taxes. So I just want to clear that up first. But I want to go on and say that that I think that a requirement that Valley Supportive Housing apply each year for a grant to offset their real property tax would be a really onerous burden for an organization that really only has one employee. And second, I think the process would be an unnecessary inefficiency for city staff and city council and Valley Supportive Housing. And then I heard some concerns that granting a real property tax exemption for Valley Supportive Housing would open up a landslide of applications from nonprofit organizations. So I want to share some numbers with you. According to the Internal Revenue Service, there are currently 148 charitable organizations, excluding churches and private schools, in the city of Staunton. Of those, only 23 own real estate property in the city of Staunton. It is not integral to the mission of a nonprofit organization to own real estate. That is not, investing in real estate is not part of their mission. It's not what they do. It's appropriate for a nonprofit organization to rent real estate like the Community Foundation of the Central Blue Ridge does. They rent that property. They don't own it. So of those 148 charitable organizations, only 23 own real estate property in Staunton. And of those 24, 19 already receive a real estate property tax exemption. and none of the remaining 4 charities provide housing. So in terms of trying to discern whether an organization should appropriately receive an exemption, I think it would be fairly easy, and I could give you the list of the 4 charities that remain that don't receive property tax exemptions. And you will see the difference between what they do and what Valley Supportive Housing does. They are it is so important to them that they be able to provide housing for these 68 tenants whose monthly income is between $850 and $900 and whose rent is $525, including utilities. There is no place else for those people to go. So the need for housing those with mental illness, intellectual disabilities, or substance abuse issues is very real, and I know you all know that. And the unique needs of these people who require case managers, they can't be met with other resources like the Valley Mission, which is already strained in terms of its capacity. So the benefit of a real estate property tax exemption far outweighs the cost of putting Valley Supportive Housing clients at risk of homelessness, insufficient health care, and aggravation of their exposure to substance abuse. So I believe it is in the best interests of the community at large and the mission of Valley Supportive Housing to grant their application for exemption from real estate property taxes. Thank you.
Go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Karen Ress. I live on Biltmore Street in Staunton. I'll keep this very brief. I don't have any expertise in this area. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a real estate person. I'm just a citizen of Staunton. And what I would like to say is this strikes me as a little ridiculous. These people, at the end of the day, it seems to be a matter of blood from stones. We're trying to get money out of people who have no money. Someone has to take care of people like this. I don't think that the money is going to fall from the sky. I don't think that the churches are going to step up. I think it's us. I think we have to take care of the unfortunate and needy among us. This is what I want the city government to do as a citizen. I would like you to grant the exemption for the property tax. I can't argue about what is usually done in these circumstances, but I just wanted to say that that is what I want the city to do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm Elizabeth Cianciolo. I am on the board of Valley Supportive Housing, but I am a business owner in Staunton. And I just want it to be brought to the public that for every homeless person we house that is housed, it saves a minimum of $4,000 a year to the city. With 68 tenants, that's $278,000 a year we save the city. So I think that it's reasonable to ask for a tax exemption because I think what the service that we give, and it is our right to take, it is our responsibility to take care of our own. I know that there are other cities that are not doing this, and perhaps that's why there's a tent city in Charlottesville. Perhaps that's why there's so many more homeless people on the streets. We have a lot of homeless people still on the streets, but we can walk down Main Street and we're not inundated with it every day. So I think it's reasonable to ask the city for a tax exemption. I think that we benefit, Staunton benefits so much more with a tax exemption than they would without. The other question I have is because I had seen the list of tax exemptions, and there's one on there that I didn't understand, and it's an LLC that was established in 2022, but they're on the tax exemption list. So I'm wondering how they got there if there haven't been any granted since 2003. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Kester,
No, sir, I have no one with their hands raised.
would anyone else like to speak on this public matter? All right, hearing no one, the public hearing is now closed. I would now entertain a motion.
Think for 3 seconds.
Mayor Claffey, can I say something before?
Yeah,
we
I'd like
go?
to just process for just a second.
I really do not feel good about giving a tax exemption, but I do feel like that we should give them a year to get their business in order so that they could change what they're charging for rent, so it wouldn't put them in a situation where, it would give them time to make some adjustments to their business program. I don't know if that's something we can do. I mean, it just, but I also know that it's our fault that we haven't been collecting taxes from them, and it's kind of hard to lay this in their lap. So I don't know if that's something that we could think about or agree to before we read this proclamation. This motion. I don't know what everybody else thinks about that. I know that.
I understand we're in a dilemma here time-wise.
Terry, I'm trying to understand. So we talked about the 85,000. That takes care of the 3 years prior that we can go back. Does that also include?
I would include this year so that they would have a year to get their.
Is that above and beyond the 85?
Yes.
No,
85.
Mr. Haney, it's not, it's inclusive,
It's
correct?
supposed to be including this year.
Yes, so the
I
85,
would,
3.
so if
Okay.
we could,
Yeah.
if we could do.
Okay.
Not charge that, then that would give them time to at least change their model where
We're
they
not
get.
charging
No,
them.
we would have to charge them. We would have you appropriate dollars that they would then return to us. We can't
Right, we
not
can't
have them
just
pay
not-
us, but it would be basically a pass-through grant from the city to Valley Supportive Housing, and they would then pay us for the backpacks to get caught up in the 3 years previous. Yes, so that would be the
understand that.
process.
Well,
if
I'd
that were
also like to
happen.
see
makes
us
sense.
increase
Yes,
funding.
but I just wanted if they understood that process.
Current
This
year.
year's plus this year.
I'd also like to see us increase funding for all these people that handle homeless people. I think that it's really hard for people that are poor right now, and I know that. I mean, I've got some of my employees who are at the mission or are in a hotel, and I know, and it's the matter of getting a deposit and then getting, utilities and having to pay 2 or 3 months at a time beforehand. So it makes it really hard to get back on your feet. And then again, like somebody's car breaks down or something like that, and they're right back where they started from. So
I just want to say, we all agree to help housing, affordable housing, attainable housing, homelessness, unsheltered. This is a big decision that we would have to make, but I see what they do as a great asset to our city. And that is the part that we need to think about. You might not feel good about granting them, but I feel good about granting them tax exemption.
I feel good about it too. And Alice, I I agree with that. We've all discussed it and we've agreed unanimously that we don't want to charge them, excuse me, the previous year's taxes on that, or we want to cover that in some way. But we also mentioned that we wanted to help them going forward with some sort of grant situation. But if our intention is to continue to help them, a grant that you have to apply for every year is a heck of a thing to have to budget for. if you may or may not get it. And this organization is on the forefront of helping people who really need the help in our city, local people who would otherwise have no other alternative on this. And so I think that I think we should strongly consider doing this. I mean, the General Assembly has given us the power since 2003 to do this. And I would say that this organization is at least as deserving as many others on that list, ones that already are property tax exempt. And as to it opening floodgates of other organizations asking for it, we can say no. I'm not afraid to say no to other organizations that don't run as close to the edge of insolvency as this one to help our citizens.
Yeah, I mean, I've been back and forth on this. I mean, I've talked to y'all. I've been back and forth on this for a couple months, looking at it from every possible angle, talking to as many people in the community as I can, talking to heads of agencies, to see what their thinking is. And it's been split. I mean, it's really been split. I mean, folks who show up here, I appreciate hearing what your input is. But it's definitely been a split opinion on what we should do. I think for me, the most convincing argument is, when, that we have people in our community that need our help, that need help from government. And it's the kind of help that we can give if we so choose. But that we look at the fact that they are doing a service for the city, for the community, that isn't otherwise being done, and that it is not just for the folks who are being housed, but it's also a service to the rest of the community that we passed we're trying to put up signs for panhandling, and we don't have panhandlers downtown, where we might otherwise have homeless people. And so I think they are making a huge dent in our unhoused population, and saving the city money in doing that, saving us money from paying for institution, from being in jail, from police intervention, from fire intervention. That's very convincing to me. I think it's a worthy investment. Is it a tax exemption investment, or is it a budgetary investment? I think the seamless way, is we never have to think about it and they're tax exempt and it just goes that way. Or we have to look at it every budget season and approve it. And we're not all going to be on the city council for the rest of our lives. So it'll be up to other councils.
Deem as they see fit.
Yeah, but
the other thing I think it needs to be pointed out is Staunton Glass was a tax-paying entity on Pump Street, and we're putting 6 or 8 additional apartments in there. And they're brand new apartments as far as I can tell. And they're instantly going into a tax exempt status. St. Clair has 6 different pieces of property that last year were tax paying and next year will not be tax paying. So it seems like it's an expanding circuit. So if that's where the floodgates open up, if we choose to break ranks with the state recommendations, then you're taking positive tax-paying entities off of our city roll books and putting them into a tax exempt status. And I don't think that, I'm not sure that can continue in the future.
I feel that an argument could be made in the other direction, Mr. Mayor, as well, though, too, that Valley Supportive Housing does not create individuals that need this. They're already in our community.
They are.
And I do feel, whether we want to get into specific numbers of what they save us per individual they house, but I think it's value at the cost for it. So, I mean, I would say that in many instances, we are already paying more than the amount of property taxes that we get from these properties.
And St. Clair Street is occupied.
Mm-hmm.
currently.
Yeah, by people who can afford this, but they've
We're paying taxes.
That's what I'm going now.
All right.
No, it's being occupied currently.
We've moved out approximately 50% of folks. Some of them already have mental health issues. And transferring that property from those that afford it to those that can't afford it.
Wow.
We're doing it right as we're talking right now.
That's my
So
point.
It's not true that there's a bunch of people there.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Oh.
Siegel, it's not true that there are a bunch of people there that can't afford it or so they're living there, but they can't afford it. They can't afford to live there. They're like on the edge. Is that what you're?
There are, in our mission statement, we moved from 20 folks to approximately 8. There are 8 left that are in the process of leaving.
Mhm.
So that we can fill their apartments with more folks like in our mission statement.
Mhm.
It's not true that it's-
Can they make it an automatic budgetary thing that they don't have to apply?
I think what he was saying was that perhaps our people were being displaced when these properties were purchased. I mean, people were living there, right? So folks were living there.
Well, we sent them a note that said, for our mission statement, when your lease is up, we're
Mhm.
giving you 4 months at the
Mhm.
end of your lease to find another place to live.
Mhm.
Law requires 60 days. We're giving folks 120 days.
Mhm.
if we're getting into substantive discussion, I can't hear them.
That's
Yeah.
because we're
And
not.
nobody on Zoom can.
All right, at this point, I have to call for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, after consideration of the questions specified in Virginia Code Section 58.13651 and other pertinent criteria, facts, and circumstances as reflected in the information presented, I move that council deny the application of the exemption by designation from real and personal property taxes for the reasons included in the city manager and city assessor's recommendation.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second has been made by Mr. Robertson. Any further discussion? Mr. Kesker, call the roll, please.
Mr. Robertson. Ms. Woods,
No.
Ms. Edwards,
No.
Mr. Arrowood,
No.
Mr. Holmes,
No.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion fails.
I'm sorry, but I wish we had some way that we
No,
could, we could
Understand.
understand.
Very tough situation.
Some
It's
kind of
tough.
financing.
It's tough. Believe me, you pull your hair out on things like this.
I just don't feel like we can really make a dependable way to help them every year in a grant situation. That's my concern with the, as Michelle said, that the varying composition of council. So I think that we need to, I don't know, I would rather make it something more formal. If there were a way to, Mark, I thought I heard you saying something about, can we make it a dependable grant?
Well, that was my only measure. I said, can we just, don't worry, can we make it so they didn't have to apply every year?
Right.
Well, we can, and to me, that sounds like tax exemption.
Well, can we
Yeah.
can we make sure there's no more properties
Bought.
that
Mhm,
would
put a
be,
cap on it.
that would be tax exempt? I mean, I mean, I know this, they do a great service, but then if it keeps expanding, it takes money. It increases everybody else's tax load. Granted, it's probably not that much, but I mean, we we fought for the budget that we got this time, and it's really hard because we're spending everybody's money. We're not spending just our own money. I mean, this isn't our money to spend. We have to think about everybody, and that's what makes it hard. You know,
Well, explain to me the Pump Street situation. That one upsets me. I mean, we got eight new apartments that are brand new. That, you know, was a taxpaying entity when it was stained glass. And
I think they sold it to them thinking
well,
it was
they
going
were,
to be
I think that,
taxable.
I
I'm
think that
guessing.
was
I
all in
don't
the same
know.
building.
I
I
don't
think
think.
so.
I think they owned that building.
Yeah.
well,
I
that's the
think
one, that's the one that. it
We
came
bought
about.
that building 3 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And at that time, Mr. Siegel
Mhm.
sent a letter
Mhm.
to the assessor and asked if those 6 apartments could be made tax exempt because we were going to be putting in our tenants with limited incomes.
Mhm.
But that the bottom was staying commercial, and so we would expect to continue to pay taxes on that. And he said, fine. So 3 years ago, we were told again by the city, you can be tax exempt. We have just opened up, we've just built out 6 more, which is what brought this up when we purchased the St. Clair and started on the construction with Pump Street. And that's when it came to light that actually we should not have had tax exemption, but we've had it all this time.
Mhm.
We're going to stabilize what we're doing right now and get our tenants, get programs in place, which takes extra funding to get them to be more productive citizens. We can't do that with added expenses. But the other thing is, if we stabilize our tenants, what do you care if we save you $24,000 a year on 6 apartments? I suspect that's more than the tax bill would be for those apartments. If we had 100 apartments, every time we open up an apartment, we're saving the city money. And when we save the city money on emergency services, we're making the city a safer place to live. And as a business owner, I appreciate that. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Here's one example, if I could. 2 weeks ago, there was a housing seminar put on by Community Foundation and a group of others. There was a doctor there from Augusta, and he was talking about the situation relative to if you were to go to the emergency room as a healthy individual from a socioeconomic position that most of us are, then you might spend, if it's a serious enough issue, 3 days there. If a homeless person shows up, it's typically 7 days. So there's 4 more days at roughly $2,000 a day and the reason is that it's not only whatever this homeless person came in with so far the issue was, it's all the other underlying health issues that cause this person to stay an extra 4 days. It's just one little sample of what goes on relative to homelessness and the cost of it. If you're trying to wonder where that $4,000 came from, that's a nice chunk of it right there. Doesn't happen to every one of them, but it happens to enough folks.
So my question is, Mr. Blair, is there anything, it failed. Is there anything that we need to do? It's
That's
just.
the only recommended motion we have.
Well, there was a motion made and it failed.
Right.
So still, without another motion, this property remains taxable because there has to be an affirmative vote to grant.
That's what
the
I thought,
exemption.
yeah.
I'm ready to make a different motion. I do, feel we have a little bit more to discuss on it though. Because I think if I mean, like with Habitat for Humanity, when we would get utility fees waived, it wasn't just across the board. It had to come before council for each and every one for consideration. And I don't know if there's some way we can do that, or is it just a blanket? Actually, I guess this is kind of a question for Mr. Blair. If we do this, is this just a blanket from now on, or can it be the current inventory?
It is a blanket because it is granted to the organization. The reason that Habitat, I believe what you're talking about, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Are you talking about the utility connection fee?
Yes.
Because that's a different situation that did require an individual vote on each property, but this exemption goes effectively with the organization and the use. So as long as Valley Supportive Housing uses this for the purpose of providing this housing to these individuals, then it would go, it's a blanket. I guess that is the best way to put it.
So they could open up.
That they purchase another
They could
property.
purchase other property and it would still be tax exempt.
It would not have to go back before council.
Right, because it's a designation of the organization.
Now, one thing is in 03, the assembly gave us the ability to do this. Do we have the ability to remove it?
You do. I researched that earlier today. There isn't a provision. Well, there's an attorney general's opinion that said that it can be revoked by ordinance.
So if we felt that this or any organization that we granted this to strayed from what we feel we approved it for, we would have the ability to remove that.
Correct. And just to give you, when I said it goes, the designation goes with the organization and use, for instance, and I hope no one in the audience, this is purely hypothetical. I don't believe you would ever do this, but let's say Valley Supportive Housing bought a parcel of land and subdivided it to sell for private residences at market rate. That's not the use for which they've been granted this exemption. The tax exemption would not apply to that.
Okay. I'm comfortable with that. With that in mind, I'd like to make a motion.
I thought we were going to talk about this another meeting.
Well, that would make a fourth.
Correct.
What else would you need to know, Terry? What else?
I just don't like the idea that they can keep adding properties to. I feel like we've kind of dropped the ball on this one as far as is we put them in a bad situation.
Correct.
But I don't feel good about giving them the opportunity to expand under a tax-free basis.
Well, I wouldn't say it would be expanding because that's how they've been operating so far. And that's how all of our budgets have been formed thus far, is with them, right or wrong, being treated as tax exempt. So it would be going on unchanged.
No, I take offense at that because I believe there's 7 properties this year that are being added into this umbrella that were not on there last year. And that would be the 6 houses on St. Clair Street and the Pump Street Staunton Glass. Those are 7 properties that were taxable last year that we are now.
Those are ones we've been discussing that have been on the sheet that we've been.
Yes, we've seen it, and there's been a steady addition. I mean, you had the F.E.N. Johnson property, and then they've added additional properties every couple of years. Well, throughout
I
the
think
year.
we should talk
So
about it.
I
some
think
more.
what Terry is saying beyond that list, the list that.
Right, right.
all saw.
But according to John, that
That-
can't
No,
be,
that
that can't be
can't-
done.
That's, yeah, that's my point. That was
Right.
my argument.
So the argument
So we
is-
just opened up 6 apartments.
On Pump Street.
We have 40 applications, over 40 applications. If you think that our 68 apartments have met the need of Staunton, oh, it hasn't. But we also recognize that we have no intention on adding or growing right now. We need to stabilize and we need to put more services in place so that what we do continues to be a positive impact on the city as well as these individuals.
We understand.
Yeah, I
that,
understand. We
and-
understand
And it's not that,
But
what y'all do is great. And I'm just saying that it just, the fact that we could take more and more properties off the tax roll is, it's, you know, I just don't want to be responsible for doing that. I don't think that I have, I'm elected to be up here and represent everybody, and I don't know that I have the right. Maybe if the whole of all of our citizens wanted to do, come out and say, hey, yeah, do this, but I don't feel comfortable doing it, where you can, once you stabilize, you can take 2 or 3 more properties and.
And if we put more money back into your budget by what we save you, what difference does it make if you lose less taxable property? That's what the numbers that I'm not getting, because
Yeah.
I think we put more money into your budget than we're taking out of it.
We are a landlocked.
Yeah.
Ma'am, she's still at the lectern. The people that are that are part of your program that you're serving, you look different now.
Should we trade places again?
That's fine. Any one of you is fine. The people
How's
that are
that?
part of your program are,
We can do this later.
are they all residents of Staunton already?
For our Augusta
Yeah.
County.
Right.
Yes, we get applications from other areas. They do not, we get our applications and they come in based on the date we get them to give consideration. But it's the people from this area who get the consideration. We do not take people just randomly from Charlottesville, or now we take people from Western State who are there and have been discharged but have no place to go to. So we have worked with them. But no, we've had a number of people apply from outside of the area, but we have applicants from inside the area that get preference.
Okay, thank you all very much.
And I just want to address this slippery slope argument. If you were to amend the motion to allow the currently existing properties to be exempted and say any future properties would be subject to taxing, if that's legally possible, we can certainly live
Mr.
with that.
Blair said no.
It's
That's
not.
right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm going to table this motion.
Yes.
We do not have a proposed motion that has all of our nuances in it. Therefore, the only motion we had to present was one that was not to grant the tax exemption. I want to put any qualifications we put if we do grant the exemption in our next meeting.
And one question, will it have to have a public hearing at that time?
It will not.
It will.
It will.
It will.
It will.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm clear on what, I heard a lot of things said.
Well,
I
that's
don't
just it. We
so
need to,
Are you saying we're gonna have another work session to determine the qualification?
yes.
And then another public hearing after that? I'm
No, you're
I'm
saying a
trying to
public
figure out.
hearing.
I think
What
we're
we're
gonna
doing.
have to get a formalized proclamation with the requirements.
Or not a proclamation, but.
A
So,
definition
motion.
of
Motion, yeah.
the
But,
defining.
but that's not being decided, those qualifications, I heard a lot tonight.
But I
So I
just-
don't know if I know what those qualifications
Could
are.
Could we
for-
simply make a motion to honor the request for tax exempt status or whatever?
As it stands right
As it
now.
stands right now.
I don't know, knowing that
Okay,
we.
Terry, yeah, Terry
I
has
don't, I
something.
don't know that I can do that,
Mhm.
knowing that they can go on down the road. I was hopefully under the impression that it would just be these properties. Cause I'm really torn between doing it anyway. And I mean, I'm for relieving what they owe and all that, but I don't know about making it an entity that's tax exempt forever.
Table till next meeting.
And is that a form of a work session? I'm just trying to, you're not planning on taking a vote.
Let's do a work session for next meeting. That would be my opinion on it, because it sounds like we have a lot to discuss about different ways of looking at this one.
What other information do you all want from staff?
Would it
I
be
am just trying
possible
to-
if they,
Information.
I've got a question, John. If they formed, well, I guess it wouldn't matter, because if they formed a different LLC or something for a new property.
They did that for St. Clair. That's precisely what happened, actually.
And so,
And Mr. Haney can address that if you have
Right.
questions about that.
We do work session in.
Yeah.
so
Leslie,
that would
Yes,
make
sir.
any difference.
is it, I know this, is it possible for us to hash it out in the work session next time,
And then vote.
come up with a motion and present it and vote on it next meeting?
Not without a public hearing, which would need to be advertised. And so you'd have to advertise a
Yeah,
public
public
hearing.
Can you have a public hearing next
I-
time too and get this done?
I don't believe so.
think there's time
I
for
think
that.
you all, if you want.
Can we amend the motion that we did tonight?
I think we need to understand, again, what we've discussed tonight is that state law allows you to designate an organization for a purpose to exempt property from real property taxation. There's no, you get to pick and choose which properties are or aren't exempt. That's a designation that goes with the organization for the use. So I think what staff would need is, what is it that you think next time, the information you need?
Well, there's nothing really, it's either, it's black or white. You can't, there's no really anything that
Right.
either
if-
got to do it or we don't do it.
If you read the proposed ordinance before you, it lists the properties themselves. But then at the very last clause of that ordinance, it states, and be it further ordained that any additional real estate parcels within the cities of Staunton obtained by Valley Area Community Support or its subsidiaries and used as rentals to low-income individuals who have a recognized mental health issue are hereby exempt from real estate taxes. And that's what the tax exemption is for. It's for Valley supportive housing. In to use for housing for low-income individuals who have a recognized mental health issue. That's the designation that you're deciding.
But it definitely have to have mental health issues.
That is their mission.
That's their mission.
That's their
That's
mission.
precisely what they do.
Brad, I can support that. If you want to make your motion, I will support that.
Okay. After consideration of the questions specified in Virginia Code 58.1-3651 and other pertinent criteria, facts, and circumstances as reflected in the information presented, I move that council approve the application for the exemption by designation from real and personal property taxes.
I second.
Mr. Kester, please call a roll.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Miss Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson, Miss Edwards,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
No.
Mayor Claffey.
No,
Motion carries.
thank you for all your work on this.
Yep.
Guys,
Thanks,
I'm sorry.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all for all your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a long,
Yeah.
long drawn out.
We have learned a lot about nonprofits. and
Absolutely.
tax exemption, and we need to be ready.
Item D is a consideration of resolution establishing the city of Stanton's 2024 legislative program.
Oh, sorry, you
Oh, no,
skipped item
no,
C,
no,
sir.
I'm sorry. Consideration of resolution endorsing an application by the city of Stanton to the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development for Virginia Industrial Revitalization Fund loan for the Western State Hospital Boiler Steam Plant Project.
Amanda DeMayo from Economic Development is here to walk us through this item this evening.
Good evening, Mayor Claffey, members of council. I am pleased to be here with you this evening to present this item in regards to the former Western State Hospital Boiler Steam Plant. I think you're all very familiar with that property. It's got that well-known smokestack there as you're coming down Richmond Road into the city. BCS Holdings has been working on this project to revitalize this long vacant building in the city, and they plan to make it a new destination restaurant. And they've partnered with Pro Renata Brewery out of Crozet. If you remember back in March, BCS received an Industrial Revitalization Fund Planning Grant, and they completed those steps in September. If they receive approval for this next one, then they will begin work on that in January. So they're moving right along and getting that project going. The best part I can tell you is this match, while it does require a one-to-one match, there's no funding commitment on the city's part. They are providing the local match themselves. So if you have any questions about this project, I've got Chip Clark, and he will happily explain all the details on what they're doing.
Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. What can I answer for you? You've had a pretty extensive packet that we've
I've got a
provided.
question. Chip, where's the parking gonna be? How far down can you take that? I looked at that property myself and
Sure.
and the parking was one of the main reasons why I was a little hesitant about getting involved in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So by just the parking lot, the lot itself goes almost all the way to the Fountain Park, Centennial Park, I believe is the name. And so our property line probably goes about where that back entrance is, just before Centennial Park, probably about 30 feet past there. So the city would actually, and the city has a right of way to that for access to the park and for anyone who wants to park there and go visit the fountain. So overall, it would give us, if you go by just a very plain Jane layout, somewhere between 66 and 75 parking spaces on the spot.
Wow.
We've looked at it and we think we can get even a few more out of it because that only considers using 2 rows going down the outside edges, not using any of the middle space that would exist there after
Do you
we
think you'll
clean
need a
up the
light
site.
there at the entrance?
Say that one more time.
Think you'll need a street light there at the entrance because that's a really busy, it's a really busy road. And even when they put the circle in or the turnabout, I'm just imagine trucks coming in there and stuff like that, being you need a light there at your entrance.
Yeah, probably, we have not even begun to explore a light being there. What I do know is that the road diet's planned, I think you're aware of this, and sometime in late 2025. Part of that is going to be putting pedestrian access that's going to go all the way back to the city, you know this, and then a walk path that's really come out of our side. I saw the most recent design 6-foot wide path going up to us. There'll be pedestrian crossing going across over to Blackburn as well up the hill. I think that road diet's going to have a pretty big impact on speed through there. I've been out on that sidewalk quite a bit over the past couple of years, and it's tough when someone's coming down that hill 50, 60 miles an hour.
Which 25 now, and I bet you hardly anybody does that.
Yeah, no doubt. PD, where'd you go? No, but at the road diet, it's gonna have a major impact on that in terms of how that's viewed. I don't think we're gonna need the light. What we're talking to with VDOT will be very next discussion is what we look at as a turnout and how that all gets laid out. One of the things that we're looking at getting rid of is probably the most dangerous entrance, which is the one up the hill. So I can remember back when I first came to town in '93, watching trucks trying to back down into that, coming into the back of the plant, and just how crazy that was a way to pull in and to pull out. And even coming out of there today, you're blind looking up past the ice house. So I think the road diet, getting rid of that entrance, putting things in a more visible spot should probably alleviate some of that.
Are you gonna
So-
put a second floor in it?
Oh, yeah. Actually a third.
A third?
So there's actually, so if you really think about how the building's constructed on the inside, you got that main floor that's about 6,500 square feet. You've got that little raised area in the back that used to be the tanks for water softening, some filtration, et cetera. And then there is this third mezzanine that existed at the top, being the southwest corner of the building. I think I've got that right. That's up there where the old fans were and outside of it. What we've got in the design, hopefully you've been able to see that in the drawings, is how we've connected all three of those levels. So there'd be a second mezzanine added that would allow us about 150, maybe 200 people on that. And then a smaller third mezzanine, that we would be able to get about 15 or 16 people up there in kind of a couch and table situation. So it's a pretty aggressive plan. Yeah, and we've been able to at this point, and again, this was in the packet, for the majority of the project, DHR has approved it, Department of Historic Resources. So this was a huge step. Now, we had worked with them well before making the application and submitting it back in the beginning of October. But we worked with their guidelines to how they would allow us to put that second mezzanine to expand what we could do with the space.
That little track that comes off of there, is that part of?
Spur.
So the spur, that runs pretty much from the east end of the property all the way down to the west end and terminates actually at it's the city's property that kind of runs up the hill there. And that runs at length. We are looking at trying to make that into a pedestrian walkway. We've still got a few minor challenges to work through.
So that's yours and not the railroad.
That is not the railroads. There is an intersection of the property line. There's part of that we need to work with them on. We've met with them, had a pretty favorable meeting as far as what they require and what we've done. So we've gone through the design, and now if and hopefully we get this approved, we'll go ahead and start talking to them to figure out make sure that we're 100% of what they want to see.
How
us do
wide
with
is that spur?
I'm just gonna say 10 to 12 feet, depending on how you look at it. It's the wood construction up there probably has it as wide as about 12 feet. I think our design's got it in roughly the same measurement to follow that along. And you'll be able to enter it from the east end of the property as an ADA accessible entrance. And then the idea would be have a larger stairwell on the west end of that. So.
And at one point, Chip, I mean, you said, is it gonna be for walkway only, or at one time we saw some kind of picture that possibly could even have some tables up there?
Yeah, absolutely. There could be tables up there. It could be outdoor seating. It wouldn't be connected directly to the building. DHR won't allow us to do that up front. 5 years from now, we could potentially explore that. But the initial construction of it, that would just be a walkway that we would be able to use as outdoor seating.
Okay.
Sounds like a great project. We can't hardly wait.
Neither can we. It's been 7 years.
Great.
That's great.
I'll take a motion if anybody's ready.
Mayor Claffey.
Yes.
I move that City Council adopt a resolution endorsing an application to the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development as presented and authorize the city manager to sign the local certification letter.
Mr. Mayor, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Kester, please call the roll.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Ms. Edwards,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you for this. Thank you for the planning grant, and see
Good
where it goes from
luck.
here.
Good luck.
Appreciate it.
Good luck. man.
Hurry up, we want to get there.
Yeah.
So excited.
And now we have a consideration of resolution establishing the city of Stanton's 2024 legislative program. Ms. Beauregard.
John Blair, our city attorney, will walk through this item.
Good
Good evening, Mayor Claffey, members of council. Before you tonight, you have a proposed legislative program for the City Council of Staunton. The program consists of 4 items. I will describe 3 of them and then have a little help from Councilor Robertson on the 4th. The first are 2 bills that were discussed at your July 27th work session. One would permit localities to hold a special election on the date that primary elections are held. That would be at the option of the locality. The second would give the city council authority to set conditions to either reduce or waive utility connection fees for the area known as Uniontown. We did a description of that we will be presenting. That we will be presenting to the individuals elected to the legislature on November 7th. There is also the VML legislative position statement package in there that would be part of the legislative program for the city. And then finally, there is a Line of Duty Act bill, and I'll let Councilor Robertson explain as much as you want, and then I'm happy to as well.
Yeah, as I'm sure y'all are all aware, back on February 1st of this year, and something that was dear to my heart too, because it occurred at Bridgewater College, where I graduated just a couple of years ago. Police officer John Painter and campus safety officer JJ Jefferson were brutally shot and killed by a young man that was having some mental issues. That was February 1st, 2022. And you hope and pray that that never happens in our area or community again. And unfortunately, on June 17th, 2023, not too far from here, Chris Wagner II, a young 31-year-old Wintergreen police officer, was shot and killed by 3 young men. Unfortunately, they were doing drugs and mushrooms and got a hold of his gun and shot and killed him. In both of these cases, of course, the governor, Governor Glenn Youngkin, had the ability to take care of that and issue state funds to help the families out of these police officers, because unlike our Staunton police officers, the city of Staunton or Harrisonburg, wherever, they are able to participate in the Line of Duty Act. If they are killed within the line of duty, their family is taken care of through financial means. But when you have private police officers, they don't have that ability. So what this is the city of Staunton would definitely put helping or hoping that the legislature will include the ability for private police things like Bridgewater College or JMU or whoever would give them the ability to sign up with the Line of Duty Act and make their police officers protected under this Line of Duty Act, and just God hope it never, ever happens again. And I'll conclude that, John, and let you explain anything further.
Right. It's a program that they would have to pay premiums to join if the legislature enacts it. But
It's
it
kind
would
of like an
allow-
insurance policy of sorts.
Right. If an officer is injured in the line of duty, God forbid they die, but there's a death benefit that's paid to their survivor. And then if they are injured, this trust fund does help pay for their health insurance if they are forced to retire.
And like I said, and most of all the communities and the counties around us have already done so and approved this to go to the state.
Thank you for bringing that up, Mr.
Is that all we have for it?
Yes, sir.
Are we interested in a motion on this?
Mayor Claffey.
For Holmes?
I move that city council adopt the resolution establishing the city of Stanton's 2024 legislature program.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I will second this.
All right. Mr. Kester, please call the roll.
Miss Edwards,
Aye.
Miss Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood,
Aye.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Good job. Thanks, sir. All right, matters from the city manager.
All right, I have a few things to mention tonight. First is citywide leaf collection is going to be starting soon. So if you'd like to participate in this program, it's going to start next month and continue through early January. So if you would like to rake your leaves to the curb or street right of way away from gutters, don't have any rocks or debris in there. We are sending out, or we have sent out the pickup schedules. We can't say exactly when we're going to be in your neighborhood. If you go on our website or look on our Facebook post, you'll see generally when we're going to be in your area. There is a map online. There's also maps on Facebook. So just make sure the leaves are on the curb by 7 a.m. at whatever area you're in, that you live in, and whatever timeline that is. Leaf collection will not occur during city holidays, including November 26th to the 27th, December 22nd, or January 1st. And the city will provide collected leaves to local farms for composting.
Leslie, can I ask one question?
Sure.
I noticed on this one that is every place or on the map, it's just one date. And always in years past, there's been 2 dates. So it's not happening like that this year.
They're gonna be collecting November through early January. So I think they're only gonna do one pickup, but I'm
Okay.
pretty sure it's what we did last year too. So we're just doing what we did last year as well. So. Okay, the other item is, and Ms. Wagner is here. At the September 28th council meeting, city council voted to support a resolution endorsing the city of Stanton to apply to the Virginia Economic Development Partnership for a Virginia Brownfields Restoration and Economic Redevelopment Assistant Fund Remediation Grant. That's a lot, on behalf of the Arcadia project. And we received word just the other day that we did receive this grant in the amount of $50,000. The purpose of this grant is to permit the restoration and redevelopment of brownfield sites and to address environmental problems or obstacles. It's a dollar for dollar match, which the Arcadia project is providing the match. And we're very excited to see this historically significant project continue to move forward. So congratulations to them and to us. Veterans Day is in a few weeks. It is a city holiday, which became the case a few years ago. We'll be putting out information on Monday about city closures and trash collection changes to accommodate the holiday. The holiday will actually be observed on Friday, the November 10th, which is the day after the next council meeting. So if you have a Friday pickup, put your trash out Wednesday, November 8th. The recycling center will be closed on Friday, the 10th as well, but it'll be open on the 8th and return to normal schedule on the 11th. There will be message boards going up in the Friday pickup neighborhoods to remind everyone who has a Friday pickup, and we'll be pushing that on the news and social media starting on Monday. And finally, I'm getting updates on the dam levels, which continue, the water levels continue to drop. Unfortunately, we've had no rain, obviously. It's not awful news, but we were asking folks to please continue to voluntarily conserve water. Hopefully we won't need to go to the next level, which would be mandatory restrictions, but hopefully we won't have to do that. So just keep up the good work and we'll get through this, but we really need some good rain. So everybody do a rain dance.
We're supposed to have a rainy winter, but I don't know.
I don't know. So
We haven't had any rain yet.
It'll be okay. And that's all I have tonight.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could I add?
I'm so sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes, I meant to introduce, yes, my apologies.
No problem. I just wanted, I had spoken with the registrar last week and wanted to make a brief announcement that, as you know, November 7th is a special election for a city council seat formerly held by Andrea Oakes and currently filled by Counselor Holmes.
Who soon will be gone.
Well, and that's what we're going to talk about. The election is November 7th. And the next city council meeting will be November 9th. But first of all, absentee ballots are counted until the following Monday. They're allowed to come in and they're counted up to the following Monday. And the results and canvass are not going to be completed until that date. So while you might have an quote unquote unofficial winner on election night, or you may not, but even if you do, Mr. Holmes will still be
Yeah, I'm
serving
like a bad penny. I don't go away.
until on that November 9th meeting. Since the official results will not be declared until the following week.
Very good. And I also have some special expectations out of Mr. Holmes at the November 9th meeting. So
I
he
have
has,
something else for him too.
yeah, he has to stay for the November 9th meeting.
Yeah.
Ribs for all.
Maybe. Although we might look funny out here with barbecue sauce all over us.
Very well.
That is really it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, and that brings us to matters from the public. This part of City Council's agenda is called Matters from the Public. It is a time the council sets aside to hear from citizens and others about a wide variety of subjects. This time I ask you to come to the podium, state your name and your address, keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Welcome.
Evening, Council. My name is Laura Peters Shapiro. I live on South Waverly Street. You may recognize me because I used to work for the News Leader for over a decade, but I no longer work for the News Leader, so I can complain about things publicly now. I'm here tonight because I want the personal property tax addressed, specifically regarding our taxes on personal vehicles. We're sent out the bill in late October, November, with the expectation to pay a full year's worth of taxes on our vehicles. What a great time to pay a large sum of money right around the holidays. I'm sarcastic right now. I received my new bill on Tuesday, October 24th. It's due December 5th. From the time I received my bill, I have 38 business days to pay it. I know that we should all expect this bill to come and we should be preparing for it all year. But let me tell you, last year I was completely shocked by the amount of money I owed the city of Staunton for my 5-year-old car that I purchased the year before and indeed paid taxes on. Nearly $600 for a 2018 Toyota RAV4. My husband's 2013 Toyota Scion was about $150. My old car before I got my Toyota was a 2009 Nissan Rogue, and that bill in 2021 was just a smidge over $100. This year, my car is just over $400. I have 35 business days to pay it as of now. First, I'm not understanding why the assessment is so high. Putting values on used vehicles that are over the price that they were purchased is incredibly unfair. You don't even know the condition of my car, and there's no way I could walk into a car lot and get that money. Why aren't we going off of something like Kelley Blue Book or something that's more fair market value? But I understand I'm not going to win the war over how much my car should be assessed for, but I do offer one solution in terms of payment methods. While growing up in Leesburg, Virginia, we had the option to pay our personal property tax twice a year, so it was split, once in the spring and once in the fall. It would be the same amount, but it was just split up throughout the year. My parents currently live in Martinsburg, West Virginia, and they received a personal property bill in September with the option to pay it all up front at a discounted cost. And they're also offered the option to pay in installments, or do the remaining balance up to 6 months later. But with that, there's a catch: you would pay more each month. Can we offer up some sort of new payment option twice a year instead of all at the end of the year? Split up the bill, just anything to kind of alleviate the stress of paying this large bill at the end of the year. So, thank you.
Thank you. Take that under consideration. Well, I agree. It's a December 5th stuff down. Welcome.
Constance Birch, Mary Gray Lane, Staunton. We've discussed Uniontown, and I'd like to suggest that the council change the zoning from light industrial to residential. I'm not sure if it has to go to the planning board or what the steps are, but I'd like you to consider doing that as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
I'm Barbara Lee, 904 Rockaway Street, Stanton. And I'm like her. Why can't we split up this taxes on these cars? We used to have June and December, and now like she says, we have so many days to pay the taxes. Let's fix this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Claffey. We have someone with their hands raised.
Caller, go ahead.
Thank you. This is Brenda Mead, 342 Sherwood Avenue. And I'm just calling about the road signs for panhandlers. I want to thank Brad Arrowood because I think he may be the only member of city council who actually listened to the recording. But I want to share it with you, and I hope you'll listen carefully as well. So this is exactly what the recording says. And pretend you're on a customer service line. Thank you for calling Valley Homeless Connection Helpline. This is not a live line, so you must leave a message. Messages on this line are received Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you are literally homeless or about to be literally homeless, please leave a message clearly stating your name and callback number, and someone will return your call in the order received. Messages left during non-business hours will be returned on the next business day. We will call you from a private number. So if your phone does not accept private calls, please note that in your voicemail. If you prefer to email, you can email housinghelp@vcsb.org. If you prefer to complete the intake on your own, please go to myvalleycsb.org and scroll all the way down to the bottom and click the link to the Valley Homeless Connection Universal Intake. We look forward to assisting you. So you're standing at an intersection and you see that sign and you're homeless or you know, whatever your condition is. I mean, I don't know about you all, but listening to that and then trying to figure out how to both listen to that and then follow the instructions, that it's not very, I guess, what you call user friendly. So I really hope that as you're looking at whatever your plan is for these road signs for panhandlers, that you craft something a little bit more elegant than what you currently are seeing. Thank you.
Mr. Kester, anyone else?
No, sir.
Anyone else wish to speak for matters from the public? In that case, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you and good night.